was Walk Dog? Somebody played Walk Dog.
Yeah, I think it was on the other side. It was what Dragons faced. Alright, going live. 3, 2, 1. Yay, we are live. So we're here tonight with Sandwich's 2v2's No Pros tournament. I'm joined tonight by Sandwich. Say hi.
Oh, hello everybody. How are we doing?
First up for y'all, we've got first game between Stingers and Soar versus Crave and VAAV. So if you're not familiar with the event, basically it's a no pros tournament, so anybody above a 65% win rate on Total Tavern is not eligible, so it gives those, not bad, but not fresh players, but still middle tier players a chance to shine and get here on stream. So first up, we got Dark Elf Skaven versus Double Walk. So you're a bit of a Skaven connoisseur yourself, are you not, Sandwich?
Yeah, I definitely used to mess with them a little bit.
Yeah, so
I think they have a really strong place in 2v2s.
yes.
A lot of their weaknesses are covered by other factions, so I'm curious to see how far this team can go.
Yeah, Skaven have always been real strong in 2v2, even back in Warhammer 2. Just because, having their weapon team supported by good frontline units is devastating.
Yep, and I'm sure we're going to see some of those Jeziles and Mortars and stuff during this tournament. I mean, they can just absolutely level a playing field, and if the enemy has a hard time responding with cav and other mobility, it can definitely be a problem.
Yeah, and in a 2v2 where there's so many units on the board, it can be really hard to get those flanks in and actually shut down those shooting units, so be a real problem for our double walk players here if they're not careful.
That's definitely the 2v2 meta. We've been playing a lot of 2v2s lately, and the 2v2 meta is very, very different from the 1v1 meta, and it makes for very interesting gameplay dynamics, which I'm really excited to explore in some new, more upcoming tournaments. Anyways, which side do you want?
You're the Skaven connoisseur. I'll let you do Skaven. Skaven Dark Elves.
Alright, let's talk about Skaven. So Skaven is piloted here by Artike Suarve. He's a little bit newer to Domination, so we're gonna see how he does. We have Ikit Claw with all the good stuff, Flensing Rune, Warp Gale. He's on his Doom Wheel, which causes terror, which is why you bring him. And he actually has pretty good melee stats on the Doom Wheel. We've got, let's see, what are some of the other Skaven runes? So we have some Clan Rats, we have some guns, we have a Clay Claw Catapult. Ooh, I like to see the Rattling guns. I like to see the mortars. This is very typical Skaven. There's a few infantry to fill out some of the flanks, but it's a lot of guns. They're going in for a big Terror Alpha Strike with Ikit. I like to see it. Notable though is they're not doing the Skaven tech. I wonder if maybe Swarv doesn't know about it, if they decided they didn't want to do that. And if you don't know what that is, it's when you bring a chieftain and use his ability that increases leadership when your lord is not present, and you will desummon a slave lord, so you get the leadership across your whole army. And that does work for 2v2s. So they're actually not doing that. And then do you want the Dark Elf side since you're a Dark Elf connoisseur?
Sure, we got Malekith up on his dragon with a pretty typical kit. Gaze of Malice, Soul Stealer. We even got Chillwind actually coming in as well. Got some Cold One Knights, some Bleak Swords, and looks like mostly, and some Hargonath Executioner. So mostly it's frontline. Like I was saying, Skaven do really well, supported by other frontlines. So that's what Dark Elves are bringing today, just trying to protect all those Skaven guns. And we have the Raven's Heralds up in the air. Probably going to try to get some snipers on these squishier lords if they can. It's an all-around really nice damage unit, and it can be really hard to shut down if you don't have flyers of your own.
Yeah, the Raven Heralds seem like a great hedge against monstrous infantry. And
Yeah.
for the other side,
Yeah, we got double walk. So we got the forces of, the Warhost of the Apocalypse, led by Be'lakor, and then we have what's Azazel subfaction called?
Ecstatic Legion.
Ecstatic Legion, led by Azazel himself. So Azazel's not a pick we see all that often. So I'm kind of curious what kind of kit he's got. Got Temptator, so he's got the melee damage buff or defense. Even Blade, pretty common. Discourage plus his terror means he can really, really terror bomb and rat off things like Clan Rats very, very effectively. The Slicing Shards and Phantasmagoria. Just doubling down on those leadership nukes. Real interesting here from Azazel.
Yeah, Azazel does one thing really well, and it's routing units and shattering units. He has Discourage. If Phantasmagoria has the leadership nuke, he can himself cause a terror, and that's really great against low leadership factions like the Skaven. And Dark Elves their leadership's not low, but when the Skaven behind them are running, the Dark Elves are not going to be too far behind them. And it's kind of nice to see Walk bring a little bit of a different lord option. They have the Be'lakor piece, so they have the big piece if they need it. But instead of bringing a second Be'lakor, they opted for a little bit of utility with Azazel, and they kind of can cover for each other. So I like that pick, actually.
And the really nice thing is that Be'lakor and Azazel's leadership debuffs will stack. So that's even more of a leadership nuke if they're running together, as well as
mute ITP. That.
Yeah,
that's
going to
be an amazing strat.
I wonder, they can probably just route off. If they recharge a Clan Rat, they'll probably just send it running instantly from full health. Anyway, backing that up, we do have the Knights of Immolation, the Arwar Doom Knight. Off in the trees, we have some Chaos Warhounds. Looks like we got a Manticore, some Trolls, and a smattering of infantry. Marauders. Mostly Marauders. Pretty light on the infantry. A couple of Chaos Warriors, and Exalted Hero.
Yeah, and I like just how much, with 2 walk factions, you can just bring so much mass and so much infantry to bear. I mean, look at this. It's just a wall of armored and bodies walking at you.
Yeah, going lighter on the infantry with the more Marauders is pretty common against Skaven, because Globes will tend to kill your infantry regardless of whether it's Chaos Warriors or Marauders. They don't really care, so just go for the cheaper options. They're probably going to take a lot of damage from the Globes anyway. Ravens Heralds versus the Doom Knights. Well, they get a nice volley off, but it just pops the barriers. The Doom Knights will be able to chase off these Ravens Heralds. And if the Flying Lord's coming to support, Malekith needs to be careful as well. Although Howling Warp Gale and Cleansing Rune could be a bit of a threat to this air squad from Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah, and I believe Doom Knights are silver shielded. One thing I want to ask you before we get into the thick of it, looking at these builds and looking at just the players and the comps, who do you favor here yourself?
I don't know, that Skaven shooting is looking pretty nasty and pretty hard to get on top of. This map is kind of deceptively narrow, with all these trees on the side and all the rocks and terrain and the lake. There's not actually a whole lot of area to get around the opponent's front line, so if Skaven and Dark Elves can just fill out this area and protect their guns, it's going to be really, really difficult for the Warriors of Chaos to actually shut them down. So I'm be looking for the Warriors of Chaos to actually be the ones on the back foot and trying to make some plays.
I could definitely see that. Skaven do love this map. I'm gonna split the bill with you and go for the Team Evil here, just because I really love the Azazel Be'lakor combo with the leadership nuking. If they can break through that Skaven front line and they have enough bodies to do it with a double leadership nuke, then they can keep those mortars running.
Yeah.
And with the Plague Claws opening fire, getting some nice little opening salvos.
Speaking of leadership nukes, the Plague Catapults do a good job of that themselves. Half leadership gone from the Marauders just after one hit, both in the attack by artillery debuff and the discouraged effect that the Plague Catapults have. Yeah, the worst case, need to be really, really careful about how they approach the artillery line, or they're going to lose most of their infantry before they even get to melee. Really nice shots coming in.
Yeah, they're just, and the Marauders aren't really reacting. They're just sitting there taking that beating, almost already down to half health. They have lost about 30%. I will say, as much as I like the Doom Knights, they are a little bit of a weird pick here, just because Skaven do have Howling Warp Gale and a lot of guns, and Silver Shields only go so far to protect you when you're netted down. Is that what's coming down? That is what's coming down. Look at me.
Yeah, the Rattling Guns are a little bit too far away to punish this. All we've got is Gutter-Runner Slingers and the Ravens Heralds, which will do some good work, but again, with the Silver Shields, these guys should be able to shake it off, take on the barrier, and get back out. Now, notice I have, there's no healing available for the Warriors of Chaos, so these guys, any damage they take does stick, but they should still be able to get their barrier back and still be quite the nuisance. Nice bit of shades coming down on these Poison Wind Globes, trying to shut them down early, which is a big win for the Warriors of Chaos. And now the Doom Knights, Howling Warp Gale's on cooldown, it's time for the Doom Knights to go do whatever they want and have their way with this Skaven backline, because once they're in the backfield, their stats are pretty nasty. Rat Ogres aren't really going to be able to peel them off. Cold Knights might be able to, but they're just going to be an absolute terror in the backfield, especially when paired with Be'lakor. Be'lakor can land and do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and I would love to see those. I would love to see those Doom Knights just get down on the mortars and just take them out early, or maybe the artillery. If those 2 Skaven artillery pieces fall, I think this game's decided. So it's gonna be a really big effort for these players to keep them up and hopefully preserve that backline, because they've spent so much money on them. And we actually have a second catapult that came out, interestingly enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Be'lakor's going to be an absolute terror in this Skaven backline. These Rat Ogres have to put the team on their back and actually get him contained so that their guns can keep shooting if they want to be able to hold the front line, which is starting to come in for the Warriors of Chaos. And Corsairs and Dark Elf Infantry will trade pretty well, but not against this many Marauders and Trolls coming in.
Yeah, and the Armored Trolls are a real MVP for the walk side. They just do so much, and if you can get their leadership if you can get them to stick with their low leadership, then between regeneration and armor piercing and armor, they're just an incredibly hard unit to deal with. That was an amazing pit setup right there.
Yeah.
And I think we see, and already it looks like those Skaven Avalanche Mortars are a little bit tattered, but this is pretty typical for Skaven play. Usually if you bring the Avalanche Mortars, you're expecting them to be operating at half HP or less for most of the game, and even at half HP they can get pretty dirty value with just a couple volleys.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Malekith trying to hound Be'lakor out of the backfield. Just get off my rats. Get away, go back to your front line, and just let me sit back and shoot you, which is exactly what the Skaven want to be doing, and their teammates facilitating that very, very nicely. But now the Doom Knights are free, and Malekith can only be in one place, and there's so many flying threats. There's Be'lakor, there's the Doom Knights, Azazel's even coming in. It's going to be a real nuisance for Malekith to actually pin down all of those targets.
Yeah, I gotta say this has been a pretty clean execution from Team Evil so far. They've done a really good job at making that backline kind of hazardous. I'm curious to see how the frontline fight is going because we've been spending so much time on this backline. But let's see. Oh, is that Blight Claw?
That's the Blight Scab's Plague Pack. I have not seen that unit in years. So this is the RWR, what is it? Plague Monk Sensor Bearers with the unique ability of Rabble Rouse. Well, not unique, but unique to the roster, which just gives an ITP aura. Which is a bit of an odd pick against Be'lakor because he will still remove that aura. Now we do have the fight between Azazel and Malekith, and that looks to be going pretty poorly for Azazel. But look at that Phantasmagoria. Oh, that's well such a cool animation. But just nuking the leadership of the Black Crusader, as well as allowing Azazel to get some nice on Malekith. And look at the leadership effects on Malekith. He's high health. Yeah, he's at minus 32 leadership. He's very, very narrowly routing. Where is Be'lakor? Be'lakor could absolutely be helping punish Malekith. Maybe just rout him off the map. Where is Be'lakor?
Yeah, if Azazel and Be'lakor to tag team Malekith, then Malekith would be gone. But I don't. Did he die? There's no way we missed him dying.
There he is.
Oh yeah, there he is.
He went up the side point, but Azazel is in trouble, and he's gonna have to run away, and he doesn't have any healing available to him either. So, what you see is what you got as far as his health bar goes. The same could not be said for Malekith.
Earlier. Sorry. Yeah, you can see what I was talking about earlier with the mortars. Only a few mortar models survive, but they're just still coming in and punishing and doing so much damage. Each one of those volleys, even though they're such a tattered unit, each one of those volleys is just wreaking havoc. Yeah,
with only 6 models, they're still able to just absolutely delete infantry units. Looks like we do have a still solid 2-cap held for the forces of the Skaven and the Dark Elves. Whereas guys are holding their back objective pretty safely, and honestly, I'd love to see these forces start moving towards the center. There's not a whole lot of threat of a back cap from Dark Elves Skaven, so I'd really love to see you concentrate your forces in the middle and actually try to overwhelm this Skaven position. Because as it is, these guns are just a fire, and the catapults are free to shoot, the mortars are just shelling in damage, the slingers are just going off. Yeah, this is looking pretty rough for the forces of Chaos. There's not a lot of infantry left in the field. Most of it's just torn to pieces. Now the Blight Scab's Playback is getting into melee, but they are going to hit the Slicing Shards. Still fine. They should do just fine in these Chaos Warrior Hobbits. They are an elite AP unit.
Yeah, but it looks like they're kind of being sandwiched a little bit, funnily enough. But even then, this is kind of the exact fight they want to be in. They want to be grinding against armored infantry, and that they'll probably find a home there. Interestingly enough, I think Chaos had the issue is that a lot of their trolls and a lot of their heavy mass got stuck on the front line and was getting bombarded by all these leadership nukes from the Plat catapults and also just like the Flensing Ruin and that kind of thing. And they weren't able to quite get into the backline where you want them. When you're fighting against Skaven, you really want to force path your monstrous infantry and your calves past the front line into the backline so you can stop those guns from shooting. Because the more time you can buy your infantry, the more likely you are to win.
Yeah, absolutely. The Raven's Heralds are just pursuing these Warriors Cast Lords and just trying to confirm kills on them and try and get them off the field. Which is a valiant attempt, but taking out Be'lakor is a tall, tall order, even as low health as he is. He's still an unholy tear, and the Pitch of Shades coming in. The Skaven and Dark Elf frontline is starting to rout, and the Warriors Cast are just swarming over the points. Catapults are doing good damage, but with no frontline to protect them, they're not going to last very long if these Marauders start charging them.
And with every terror route Be'lakor gets, he's dribbling in just a little bit of healing there, and a little bit of healing. And with the comp they have, and against the Skaven, that's actually a really clean play. Be'lakor, he might look like he's low, but he was probably a lot more sustainable than you might think by just looking at his health bar.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and it looks like the mid's flipped. Middle's flipped for Team Evil.
Evil? These are all evil factions.
I guess they are all evil faction, aren't they?
But oh, look at the globe volleys. You know, this globe's got nerfed coming to Warhammer 3, but they still do excellent work against blobbed up infantry like this. Oh, that hurts a lot. Some nice damage coming in. These globes have got to be shut down, but there's just not a lot of tools left in the field for Warriors of Chaos. Most of what they've got is infantry or monster infantry. They're really relying on those lords, and Malekith has just been doing a really good job of sweeping them out of the backline along with the Raven's Heralds. And the
the Skaven player, he's definitely been making himself felt. Swarv is out here with I mean, even watching this stream, it's just non-stop catapult shots, globes, Flensing Ruins. There's just some sorts of insane damage around every single corner.
That's a lovely Soul Stealer.
Flensing Ruin I've seen.
This is a Soul Stealer.
Yeah, okay. And that's a lovely Soul Stealer. Yeah, and I was just... Stinger's out here running perfect interference. He's got the infantry to back it up. He's running Malekith around. These two players are just working in concert with each other very well. Yeah, and the blob punishment coming in from both Soul Stealer as well as the Skaven shooting and Flensing Ruin is just absolutely devastating. Look, it gets chasing off this Exalted Hero over here. He's broken, running away. And the Walk Lord's just playing really passively. Azazel like it, he's really squishy, but Be'lakor, you gotta get him in there. Get him in there, get some healing, and just get him to just start routing off as much as you can so you can actually get your infantry on these backline units. As it is, if these globes are just allowed to keep firing, the Warriors Cast frontline is just gonna crumble.
I mean, look at this. Red Ogres and Malekith are just chasing off trolls that have so much HP left. You really need your lords supporting the front line, as is the forces of Stingers and Swarv have retaken the center objective. And they still haven't even made a play for objective 3, so there's all of these just idle warriors and marauders just sitting here, not really accomplishing anything for Warriors of Chaos. I'd love to see them get active on the map, get in here and start pressing onto these Skaven missile pieces.
Yeah, Warriors of Chaos as a faction offer enough mobility through things like Hell Strides, which granted they might not have brung, but even like Skirmish Cav to kind of see and at least match, if not stop, a back cap. So you really want your heavy infantry to be on that front line, that's where you need them. And you're right. I think one of the big things that the Walk players aren't doing is that they're not using their lords quite aggressively enough. Be'lakor obviously really wants to be in there, and yeah, he took a bit of a beating, but that's what you're paying for. And Azazel too, he costs almost 3,000 kitted, and he needs to be in that fight. 3,000. If he's just casting, he's never going to pay for himself. He needs to be using his Discourage, he needs to be using his Terror, he needs to be on top of those globes, stopping them from firing. And because he's a small entity, he's actually got a decent health pool. Azazel is surprisingly hard to kill. He's surprisingly slippery and can definitely get away from ranged units if he needs to.
Yeah, Malekith has just been an absolute MVP for the Dark Elves this game. He's done such a good job of keeping both Be'lakor and Azazel in check, all by himself. Massive Soul Stealers on the frontline blobs, as well as just punishing both of these super expensive Dark Elf or Warrior Face Lords. But now he's in a bit of trouble. He's caught, he's in a 2v1, he's netted by Phantasmagoria, and his leadership is being debuffed. Been a bit of trouble here, though Be'lakor still has 2100 HP. Be'lakor is still in fighting shape for a long time yet. Malekith has to run, or he needs to get support. And there's not a lot of support for the Dark Elves or the Skaven coming in to help Malekith. Malekith needs to leave. That's a bit of an overstep. If they lose Malekith, that could be a huge loss for the Dark Elves and the Skaven. And could actually give Warriors a way back into this match.
Especially really excellent play with the net following. And the counter.
Beautiful, beautiful. What's that spell called? Howling Warp Gale, just to save his allies Malekith, and come with the Flensing Rune to come and try and finish off these two characters. That's huge from Swarv Skaven. It's an amazing set of casts.
The one lesson I've been saying from this game is that all these big AoE spells are just absolutely punishing, and a lot of this game has been by which players are watching AoE spells better.
Yeah.
Honestly. Walk is getting absolutely punished by non-stop Flensing Ruins, by non-stop Howling Warp Gales. It's just insane, by non-stop Soul Stealers. And while the Slicing Shards have been good, I haven't seen them reap the same toll that these other spells have been doing. Oh, and we have the Duel of Fates here.
Yeah. I just love this.
You know normally how this fight goes between Be'lakor and Malekith.
Oh, Malekith doesn't like this fight. Be'lakor's a much stronger duelist. Malekith really wants to be taking the fight opportunistically. But I just love this thematically, as it's the two big meta monster lords just throwing down, because these are the two like big single entities like this aren't very common in Dom. They're not typically that strong, but these two bad boys are an absolute terror on both respective rosters. So I just love seeing them throw down.
Yeah, and you can see even though Be'lakor's low, he's still hunting for it. But with the help of Skaven, with the help of Howling Warp Gale, he might have a chance there. Oh. Ooh.
Shadow Shroud's making it very, very hard for Malekith to trade back on Be'lakor. Be'lakor's leadership is just unflappable, and Malekith's running. Be'lakor might be able to chase him off, but I worry it's too little too late. Warriors of Chaos are very, very far behind in objective tickets at this point, and Warriors of Chaos need to get a lot of units onto both these objectives very, very quickly, and they just don't seem to have the bodies in place. We've got a lot of forces dedicated over here that have just routed and not been desummoned. You need to get everything you can back towards that center, back towards that side objective. It's no longer about value for the Warriors of Chaos. You have to be on these objectives no matter the cost. Just a really, really tough situation to be in against Skaven. So he does manage to chase down Malekith, but these Raven's Heralds are going to finish off Be'lakor too. And I just worry it's too little too late. Malekith did such a good job staying alive and punishing the enemy lords that it's just not going to be enough for him to actually fall.
Yeah, and one of the skills that's a lot more important in 2v2 than it is in 1v1s is actually desummoning your units. Because 2v2 caps how many units you can have, you're much more likely to hit to be supply capped, as we call it, which is kind of just having gold to summon units in, but not having the actual units available to you. So desummoning becomes a very important part of the 2v2 meta, so you never get supply capped. And I imagine that's kind of a problem that the Warriors of Chaos faction has been having, just because there are so many tattered units that are remaining on the battlefield that are being sent back in rather than being desummoned. It looks like probably there's a good chance they've been supply capped. You see VAAV sitting here with 2,300 supplies in the pocket, and I imagine that's just a lack of things to summon in because all of his stuff is here and it hasn't been desummoned.
Yeah, 2v2s feel very messy that way. There's a lot of things coming and going. You got to make sure you know which units you want back in the fight, which units you want back in your summoning pool. It's a real juggling act that can take a long time to get used to, even for a veteran 1v1 player. It's a real big adjustment coming into 2v2s. It's because Azazel is crumbling away, going the way of Be'lakor here very, very soon. I think that's the last nail in the coffin for the Warriors of Chaos. I don't think they have the forces to get back on this objective.
It was a valiant attempt. They put in a really great fight. I just think if they were able to compromise that backline a little bit earlier, if they were a little bit more coordinated on the push, then it would have gone well for them. The big two things that I think decided this game were just the blob play and the fact that those mortars and those catapults were just able to, and those globes were just able to fire all game without punishment.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the value on some of these weapon teams. They've been they'll just fire and even be resummoned to get more and more ammo. But that is our first game going to Team RTK, who will be advancing to our semifinals. So, let's see some of these values. Malekith, 4,300 seems like a lot, but Malekith at 2v2s, that's pretty low, I'll be honest, from what I've seen.
I mean, dude.
Nonetheless, he did it, yeah.
How much he was chasing Be'lakor.
Yeah, he did a lot of work. Like, the value doesn't even...
terror routing.
Yeah, the value doesn't even show how much work Malekith's putting in.
I'm curious to see the Raven Heralds, actually.
They only got about 1,200. Yeah, they got about 1,200. They got chased off by a lot of the Warriors Chaos flyers, but honestly, that kind of spread the flyers thin. They had a lot of targets to go for, and they just couldn't shut them all down, so... Alright, here's the big ones. Ikit Claw, 33. Avalanche Mortars got shut down pretty well, effectively as well. The Plague Claws were able to just shell in damage from downrange the entire game. And the globes, oh my gosh, those were single summons as well, looks like.
Yeah, that's impressive. They had no ammo by the end of it, so they got like double their value.
Rat Ogres as well, doing very, very well. Oh my goodness, there were all 5 globes brought in. Just doing tons and tons of work, as well as the Wolf Rats doing quite well. Azazel actually got quite a bit of value himself as well. Not really sure. We didn't see him on camera a whole lot, so I'm not really sure what he was fighting.
It must have been those slicing shards that were always in the background, but we didn't quite focus on. It's an impressive spell if you can get a good blob on it. He got about as much value as Ikit's Flensing Ruins, so that's pretty good. That being said, Azazel's a lot more expensive than Ikit, and he really wants to be using that terror, and he was just kind of kept in the sky for too long, I think.
Yeah, Slicing Shards is a really nice spell in 2v2 because it's a little big and a little slow, like the damage is too spread out and it's kind of easy to dodge. But in 2v2, with so many bodies in the field, it can be really hard to get out of the way fast enough. Be'lakor doing Be'lakor things. Night Simulation, I think they were summoned at least twice, but that's still an impressive amount of value for that unit. For you do not see very often. I think really well shutting down weapon teams.
One thing I don't think we gave the Chaos players quite enough credit with is that the Knights of Immolation really did stop the mortars from dealing damage early on. They really did prioritize that target. The mortars only got 500 value, so that was pretty impressive, actually. If they were just able to get on the catapults and the globes, that would have been fantastic. But it's a very hard thing to do, especially in 2v2s, and this is one of the reasons Skaven are as dominant as they are in 2v2s. So it was a really great attempt from Team Chaos, and I'd love to see them come back and try it again later. I love the build.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, so for our next game we have, Ogres Dark Elves, led by, what's their team name? The Bringers of Destruction. Versus Walk Doc, played by, what's this team's name? I'm not sure what this team's name is. Oh, When Worlds Collide.
When Worlds Collide. I like that name, that's a good name.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to see Walk and Doc in action for quite some time. I think it's a really interesting idea. I like the idea of being able to bring Be'lakor and Archaon having that like armored infantry supported by unarmored elites. So I'm definitely excited to see how they do.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing exactly what our players have cooked up for us. So let's go ahead and get into this replay.
We're seeing a lot of Dark Elves. I know they're pretty dominant. They're a pretty strong faction in the meta currently. So I guess it makes sense that we're seeing them a lot in 2v2s as well. Same with Chaos.
Yeah, well, one of the things with 2v2s is you got to spend a lot of your money on not a lot of units because you are unit capped. And Dark Elves are really good at that. They really want to be spending their money on Malekith, who's pretty expensive and take up a lot, as well as things like Cold One Knights and even Corsairs are a little pricier, so you can actually get that funds into good units and can be very efficient that way.
Yeah, for sure. And Ogres, I can tell you this because I played Ogres in the last turn 2v2. Watch that replay, watch that stream if you haven't. It was great. Ogres are really strong 2v2 faction. They just, a lot of their weaknesses are made up for by having a second player. They can fight on top of actually decent infantry units. They have lead belchers, which are really hard to shut down. Elite cav like the Sky Starters are really strong in 2v2. So ogres also offer a lot.
Hmm. As well as units like the Sky Striders really benefit from kind of supportive spells. Anything kind of buffs or healing can do really, really well on them.
Mhm.
But if ogres usually won't bring that, that means they're sacrificing any kind of horde clearing magic. So being able to have both is really, really nice. All right, you sound like an
Yeah.
ogre dark elf connoisseur. So you want to get this team?
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. So for the Dark Elf side, we have Bleak Sword frontline, pretty typical. Bleak Swords trade up into most other T1 infantry. They're very cost effective for what they do. And then they're backed up by Ogre Bulls, pretty standard, just Ogre Bulls with dual weapons. Bleak Swords and Ogre Bulls together for a price tag of 1,000 will probably trade up into most other things. So I think they're a really clean frontline unit. We actually have some Iron Guts too, looking to spend a little bit more money. I like Iron Guts; they're a great piece. They do well against spears because they have armor. Then we have some normal Man Eaters too, bringing a little bit of punch in. Man Eaters have armor piercing; they have great stats. I'd love to see it. And then we have the Lead Belchers. These are the key pieces of Ogre play in 2v2s and Ogre play in 1v1s in general. They're a hard unit to keep alive. They have very low HP for what they do, but they deal punishing amounts of damage. Their shots actually pierce, so they can hit multiple infantry-sized models. And so even 2 or 3 volleys, they will lay waste to infantry. You can think about them kind of like Skaven Globes in that way. And what kind of spell kit we got? Troll Guts and the Maw. Okay, so somebody was watching the last tournament, and this was the kit I was running too. So Troll Guts gives you a lot of utility, especially in 2v2s when you control gut the enemy's units or sorry, your allies' units as well. Oh my god. The Maw, since 2v2 is such a blobby game mode, even though the Maw is a little bit of an inefficient spell because of how expensive it is, you can actually get pretty good value from it, and being able to nuke a point is actually really nice. And then Malekith, standard kit, we have the Gaze of Malice, and we have the Soul Stealer. You guys saw him in action last game, he's back this time.
Yeah, Malekith is an absolute unholy terror. It's got a couple of handbows on the sides, looks like.
There are a couple hand bows on the sides. Yes, I missed that. And there's the ROR bow too, just to deal with some of those armored chaos warriors because it has shield breaker, so it'll
Yeah.
help with that as well.
Yeah, they really synergize with other missile fires. Although lead belchers don't need that, as missiles do pierce right through shields. All right, Walk Dock. So we do in fact have Be'lakor Archaon, power duo. You know the chaos power couple that we got here. We got Burning Head, Spirit Leech, Armor of Morkar, and Slayer of Kings, as well as Paragon of Ruin for that IDP aura. But Archaon is just a powerhouse duelist on the ground, as well as that Burning Head against all the lightly armored Dark Elf infantry, as well as the Noblars, and even the Leadership Discourage effect against Ogre Bulls can be very, very effective. So I really like the Burning Head inclusion. And then we have Be'lakor. If you played any Dom, you know Be'lakor. He's a terror. He has Pit of Shades. He terror routes everything. Not a whole lot to say. You'll be seeing a lot of him. Now, for this army, we look like we've got a frontline of Chaos Warriors backed up by some pretty elite shooting for the Dock player. We got Festering Stooges, some pinks, some blues, then just halberds and more Exalted Plague Bearers. Pretty elite infantry corps. Little worried about those lead belchers. They could absolutely tear this apart if the Warriors Chaos player are not careful about how they approach this fight.
Yeah, and do you want to talk about Demons of Chaos and Domination? Because some people might actually kind of be unfamiliar with them just because they're not playable on ladder, but they're a pretty big staple of the multiplayer meta currently.
Yeah, so Demons of Chaos, naturally, their big weakness obviously is that they don't have a lot of armor, so typical just cheap shooting is very, very effective into them. And they actually like to play a pretty shooting heavy style themselves, relying on things like Exalted Plague Bears and Pink Horrors and Blue Horrors, and then Be'lakor as well to supplement your front line. It's a pretty effective strategy. They just go, pretty elite with their infantry, and then, you have Flesh Hounds to summon in. And the thing that makes Demons of Chaos really, really strong in 2v2s, as well as to some extent in 1v1s, is their cycling. They're able to just have the units summon in, fight, die, and then immediately are back in the summoning pool. Kind of like how you saw last game, there was the Warriors Chaos weren't able to summon anything, because they just had too many units routing on the field and not doing anything. Demons of Chaos, they go in, they fight, they crumble, they die, you resummon them. It's a really, really quick cycle, and it makes Demons of Chaos absolutely devastating in 2v2s, when you can just have 12 Flesh Hounds over the course of 10 minutes. It's devastating.
Yeah, and Flesh Hounds are probably the best mobility in the game. So any faction with access to them will definitely have some type of advantage there. And we see talking about those Flesh Hounds, we see them going for the bold flank play onto one. We're probably gonna jump out and try to see how much damage they can do. And against Ogre Bull dual weapons and some Bleak Swords, 2 Flesh Hounds should probably do okay if that fight's not supported. But the issue is the our alliance of ogres and dark elves here will be able to support that fight versus the Chaos and Doc faction won't. So we'll see how that goes. Looking at the comps now, who do you favor here? Who do you think's gonna win this?
I don't know. There's a lot of light armor for the ogre's dark elf side, which can be really, really punished by the shooting from the pinks. But they need to get inside the range of those lead belchers, and all this heavy infantry just can get absolutely destroyed by those lead belchers. So again, if Warriors Chaos and Doc can get into the melee pretty effectively and shut down those lead belchers, they'll be in a good spot. But it's gonna be kind of similar to the last game. But they really gotta get on the shooting if they want to succeed in the front line.
Yeah, and we're gonna see if this team can do this Chaos team can do what the other Chaos team has had a hard time with and shut down the shooting. And we're seeing the opening salvos. Nothing too devastating, but this is just the teaser. So we're gonna see, and if it looks like the Fleshhound play is being sprung in the backline. And the
lovely burning head. Lovely burning head. Goodbye, Bolt Fiends.
Archer.
You know, I've tried to ring the Bolt Fiends so many times, and every time this is what happens to them. Just spells, 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 and they're gone, and I'm sad.
Yep, and the Dark Elf players doing a great job at opening up some early skirmishing, and then meeting with its front line. We got the Fleshhounds being sprung in the back line.
I love this. The Fleshhounds aren't even going for the back gap. They're just trying to go right for the back line. Just walk past the Ogre Bulls, go right for the lead belchers. We got one.
Yep,
perfect.
Right,
we got these ones coming in the front, and then these ones are right here to catch them as they come out the back. It's a lovely, lovely play from Ghouls Baby on Demons of Chaos.
Yeah, that was an excellent job.
Lovely Pit of Shades coming down. This is something you really like to see when you're playing Rush Faction. Just drop Pit of Shades on the front line, so you just got a nice free route into the back line to get on these lead belchers and actually pressure them and shut them down. And where
I think what makes that difficult is you actually have the even though the swordsman routed, you have the Iron Guts there holding down the line despite the Pit of Shades. I would like to see the Marauder in the front or the Chaos Warrior force path through and have the Halberds leave them there to fight the Iron Guts.
This is no regular Halberd, my friend. These are chosen Halberds.
Oh no.
And the beautiful thing is that these Iron Guts are blocking any line of sight from the lead belchers, even if they weren't being eaten alive by Be'lakor. Oh, and now the Lords of Chaos are just getting into the backline. The left flank is being overwhelmed by the forces of Chaos, and the gun line is crumbling. We got the shooting coming in over the top. The Plague Bears shooting absolutely dumps through these Sky Sharks, as well as the crossfire from the pinks. Sky Sharks look like they're trying to get onto the backline, trying to get on the Doc shooting, but Horrors are surprisingly tanky. They're pretty high model count. They're pretty small, so they get knocked around a lot. So things like this with low entity count actually have a really hard time with the Screamers coming in well. A perfect counter unit, as well as the Chaos Warrior Halberds. These Sky Sharks are in a lot of trouble back here. Even with Be'lakor coming in a sandwich as well. And the Plague Bearer volley. This is just a beautiful punish from the forces of Chaos. We even have, what is that? The Slash Army ability coming in? Fascination to rampage them to make sure they come back in and get finished off. That's absolutely brutal.
Those Sky Stars, man, that's so much value that just got absolutely sandwiched. And this is one of the things that Doc does really well is their backline is pretty short range, which means even though they don't trade well to other archer units, they're very hard to crumble because their units are automatically covering for each other. Their front line can easily be pulled back into their backline. They have Screamers and Hounds for screening. They have Be'lakor for screening. Doc is a very difficult faction to compromise, which is why you usually want to try to outrange them if you can.
Yeah. Looks like the backline is starting to stabilize for the Ogres and Dark Elves. We have some Cold One Knights, as well as some Saber Tusks coming to start peeling off all those diving units. But the damage is done. The missiles are largely offline. The Dark Shards are gone. The Lead Belchers are really, really hurt and still being disrupted. And the front line has crumbled in the meantime. Even if those guns come back online, there's no fight left to win. Most of the front line for the Dark Elves and the Ogres has completely crumbled away.
Yeah, and you can see we're still relatively early into this fight, and the battlefield is absolute chaos. There's not really a direct front line. There's not really a direct back line. There's just bodies and bodies everywhere, and every which way. And this is one of the things you want to do when you're trying to break a shooting line is get past the front line and make that battlefield absolute chaos. Make it hard for them to find safe pockets to keep their guns in. Yeah,
and once the game devolves like this, Warriors of Chaos and Demons of Chaos both love this situation because now the Fleshhounds and the Hellstriders can feast. There's nothing to protect the shooting. Infantryans are left stranded on their own, and you can get such nice rear charges and good engages. It's an absolute feeding frenzy for the forces of Chaos.
We're seeing our duel of the fates again with Malekith and Be'lakor, but I think this one's going to maybe go a little bit differently than the last one was going. We saw Malekith like really leading most of last game until the very end, and we're gonna see if Be'lakor turns it around this time.
The Lead Belchers are trying to help, but Malekith's wingspan is so wide he was getting shot by his own Lead Belchers. Anyway, the Crows of Khaine are coming to try and intercept, and the nice maw. Beautiful maw. 2 halberds. Neither of those were the Chosen, unfortunately. Not sure where those Chosen got off to. Ah, there they are. They're coming in. Oh, what a blob. Oh, the Chosen halberds are going to love this. Unfortunately, there's no Soul Stealer available for Malekith since he just used it, but this Slaughtermaster is not going to be sticking around here with 2 of the Lords of Chaos here to chase him off personally. He will be escorted off the map and never be seen again, I suspect.
Yep, and I was actually going to say this earlier, but I forgot. I think the Chosen are going to be, those Chosen Halberds are going to be linebackers in this game, and I think a lot of, like, the tail of the tape of how this game goes, I think is going to be resting on them a little bit. And I imagine we're going to see them within some insane value numbers at the end of this, unless the Ogres and Dark Elf team are able to get some shooting onto them.
And you know the really nasty part of Chosen Halberds? Especially in a 2v2, they have the same banner as the regular Halberds, so you can't even tell them apart. Unless you check every banner, you're not even going to know they're on the field if you're the Ogres. So you're going to charge right in, and you're not even going to know that there's Chosen Halberds there waiting to tear you apart. A lovely Gaze of Malice, but that's armored infantry, and that does not do a whole lot. But the Soul Stealer is doing work, but not enough. These halberds are so tanky, they gotta get the lead belchers on them ASAP, but the lead belchers are being chased down by those Hellstars and those Fleshhounds who are just in the backline tearing apart all these low health units. Like I said, it's a feeding frenzy for these Fleshhounds. They love this devolved fight. There's nothing to protect anything. The Fleshhounds can kill whatever they like, and so can the Hellstriders, which in this case is the Slaughtermasters being chased off the map. Like I said, he'll just never to be seen again, and that's a massive hit to Ogre leadership, who are not a high leadership faction to begin with.
Yeah, and being able to Spirit Leech Malekith with Archaeot and then follow up with Be'lakor is actually a pretty nasty combo. You get a lot there, and we out of desperation we even see the ROR
Raven's Heralds.
That one, yeah, we see them jump in to try and soften the punch a little bit and try to get a little bit of damage on the Be'lakor.
Oh my god, I love this. The Armor of Morkar on all of these halberds bring these Chosen up to 80 MD as they're just grinding at these poor Ogres that don't know what they've signed up for. My goodness,
I have a feeling these Chosen are going to have like 3k value between them by the end of this
looks
game.
like such a strong showing. Fasha and Ghouls are showing off why Warriors of Chaos and Demons of Chaos are to be feared in domination.
Those Raven Heralds have interestingly used most of their ammo and are more or less at full health. And 600 value.
There's not a whole lot of, well, there's a lot of not better targets for Warriors of Chaos. They're just kind of focusing their ability tools on things like Lead Belchers. Raven Tails are kind of slippery and hard to shut down, so you might as well get on the Lead Belchers or the Dark Shards so you can kill more easily. And once again, we're seeing a situation where we have a lot of low health units you probably just want to desummon because you don't have a whole lot left to summon. Although it looks like nobody's being released supply cap except Ghouls, which I suspect is more a matter of inattention rather than supply cap, as Doc do cycle quite well. And yeah, here we go. We got, are those what I think they are? Exalted Bloodletters of Khorne, baby.
Oh, we love to see it.
We do. I'm going to talk about a good unit to just come in and clean up a fight. Exalted Bloodletters will actually make mincemeat of all the Dark Elf infantry. Not going to do so hot against the Iron Guts and the Man-Eaters, but against the Dark Elves, they'll absolutely destroy them. And these Chosen...
Bloodletters, yep. Nope, go on.
Oh, we got Man-Eaters and Ogre Bulls charging into Chosen Halberds, the Festering Stooges. Oh, these poor Ogre boys.
And you can tell he doesn't quite realize that they're Chosen Halberds because he keeps sending units to fight him when he really should be allocating those resources elsewhere, having the Dark Elf player do that.
And like I said, it's a very easy mistake to make. I've done it myself. I've lost games I didn't realize it was a Chosen, not a regular Halberd. Because these guys are so hard to remove. They're so tanky. They hit really, really hard against those large units. And these Man-Eaters are running for the hills. They've realized the error of their ways, and they're out of here. It's like Malekith and the Raven Tails are trying to go for Sniper Arcane, but he does just get the drive-by. Not a lot of damage. Arcane's a little bit low, and with no healing really available to him, unless his teammate happens to roll Fecundity. Yeah, trying to get a snipe, but now it looks like Malekith's the one being sniped. Screamers and Fleshhounds coming in, a Rampage coming from Fascination and Spirit Leech, and Be'lakor's coming in here to finish him off. Malekith's in a lot of trouble here, and there's nothing here to support him. There's no Cold Moon Knights, there's no Crushers. Malekith is going to die. Malekith's going to die to Be'lakor right here, right now, baby.
Is that an army ability Rampage again?
Yeah, it's the Slash Army ability that Demons of Chaos have rolled.
That was very well timed, I must say.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, he's being beaten on by 2 FCMs,
oh,
he's
yeah.
surrounded by dogs, screamers. This is what Doc is great at. These isolations with screamers and dogs, and then picking on them with Be'lakor. You're seeing really why Doc is such a dominant faction. into some of the higher level factions like Dark Elves and Domination.
Yeah. And Ghouls has clearly been practicing this. His dock play has been immaculate this game. His Fleshhound's been getting over all the right targets. Be'lakor has been doing really, really well in those duels, as well as just getting around and terror routing, doing everything he needs to be doing. And my goodness, these Chosen Halberds are holding on their own against a Handbow, Ogre Bull, Iron Fist, Man-Eaters, and Dual Weapons. 5 units being tied down by a Chosen Halberd, and it's probably trading up. Now we get the Fleshhound recharge as well to start routing off all of these Ogres. This is looking real rough for the forces of Dark Elves and Ogres.
Playing as the Blob is the exact opposite thing you want to do against the Chosen. They're not in the cage with. Sorry, the Ogres, the Chosen are not in the cage with the Ogres. The Ogres are in the cage with the Chosen.
I'm not in the cage with you. You're in the cage with me. And now Be'lakor's coming in to finish off that Ogre Bull, that Ogre Lord once and for all. Crows are going to try to peel him off, but to no avail. Getting the second Lord Snipe. And with the 3-cap coming in, I see little hope for these Ogres and Dark Elves.
Yep. I want to say, I think one of the unsung lords of this game has been Archaon. We haven't really been seeing him too much because he's not as flashy as Be'lakor. He's been on the ground, but he's been throwing in some great burning heads. He's been throwing in some great spirit leeches, and he's there constantly popping buffs, terror routing, and just fighting on the front lines. So where is he?
You say he's there constantly. I think he got desummoned because he was super low.
Well, he was super low because he was there constantly.
Yeah, with all these Exalted Bloodletters coming in, as well as all these Chaos Warrior Halberds, there's too much meat on these objectives. It looks like it'd be pretty rough for the Ogres and Dark Elves to recapture one of them, let alone all three, which they have to do in under a minute. So I think we've got our second game going to the forces of Chaos. So
and I really love the Exalted Bloodletters as a mid to late game summon. Their biggest issue is they're quite squishy. They don't have a lot of armor. They don't have shields or any of that. So, but they do really great against other infantry units. So when you summon them in the mid game, when the battlefield is full of chaos, when the shooting lines are not intact, when they've used a lot of their ammo, when magic is low, Exalted Bloodletters really can just get on the right targets and reap their toll. And there's nothing that can stop them.
Yeah, absolutely. To answer the question in chat. Mother Springer, they any team restrictions. So yeah, there's we're using Turn's alliance system. So each factions are divided up lore-wise. I don't remember all of them, but if you click in the description, there's a link to the tournament page, and that has all of them listed here. It's mostly like Chaos with Chaos, Undead are all together. Ogres compare with pretty much anything other than Chaos, since they are mercenaries. So that's why you're seeing Ogres, Dark Elves right here. And where Chaos does take the day.
I think one of our teams was Chaos Undivided, which includes a number of Chaos factions and Skaven as well. It's like Norska, Skaven, Walk, Dock, one more maybe? Beastman? Yeah, Beastman. And then the other alliance is just is actually Team Destruction, which includes Ogres, Dark Elves, Vampire Coast, and Greenskins?
Yeah, Greenskins.
Yeah. So they could have, so you pick an alliance, and then you and your partner can pick any faction within that alliance. Oh my god, that Malekith value. Same thing you were talking about earlier.
Easy 5,000 value, baby. You love to see it. Cold Knight's doing well. I didn't realize that was a Cold One Chariot, not a Scourge Runner. That's a wild pick. It came in a little bit too late to do a whole lot, so not a lot of value on that.
A place to experiment, and I love that. A lot of units that don't work in 1v1s, like Elite Cav, work really well in 2v2s. What was that Lead Belcher value? I looked away.
Only 1,000 this one. They did okay, but you're really relying on them to clear out all those Chaos Warrior Halberds for you, and so they really need to get a lot more value in this build. So they kind of got shut down before they could really get the value they were looking for. Oh, that feels bad.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's tragic.
I think this one's slightly more elite than I would have liked to see personally.
Be'lakor saw Malekith's 5,000 value and said, "You may be the Witch King, but I am the Dark Master." 5,700 value on Be'lakor.
These two lords are constantly competing for someone's attention. They're just trying to always impress somebody. Oh my god.
It's the Dark Gods for Be'lakor and Cain for Malekith, I believe.
Cain for Malekith. Yeah, that's about right.
So I believe Fleshhounds do in fact go burr.
1,700. Holy hell.
4 Fleshhounds, 4 Screamers, and a lot of value on all of them. That's
recharging ogre units with Fleshhounds is one sure way to get a lot of value.
All right, what do you think the value on these Chosen Halberds is?
How many were there?
2.
2. I'm gonna say 1,200 for one and 17 for the other.
Okay, so 1,670, so 17 for that one, and 24.
2,300. What was that fighting? Holy hell!
Man-Eaters, I think.
I guess it must have been man-eaters.
Absolutely devastating. When you don't have shooting to take them down, Chosen Halberds have just such beautiful melee stats to just grind down even the most elite ogre units.
Looking at these builds, ogres want absolutely none of what's going on in these builds. They really need to bring man-eaters for this. Like, or sorry, lead belchers. They really need to keep those lead belchers safe because those are your only salvation when it comes to a comp like this.
Yeah. All right. So next up we have Ghouls Baby and Faja. So the same Walk Demon team we just saw, facing off against Lazulus and RTK Drakons on Norska Skaven. So what is their team name? I believe they're the Vermintide Villains. That's right.
They're the Vermintide villains. If you don't know what that's from, if you've ever played Vermintide 2, the two enemy factions are Skaven and Norska. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. So let me just update the name cards real quick while we load in here. Because I believe, worlds have swapped to the other side.
I'm pretty excited to see this match. I think this will be a really tight one. I know Ghouls Baby is definitely a tournament veteran who's been around the block a couple times. Fahasa is someone who's starting to make their way onto the scene. They're a little bit newer, but they've been definitely showing some promising potential. And then from Lazulus and Drakons, they're both RTK. Drakons has some tournament experience similar to Ghouls Baby, and Lazulus is actually one of our recent recruits, and it shows a lot of promise, but is a little bit newer and is hopefully going to learn the ropes a little bit during this tournament.
Looking forward to seeing them in action. So we've got a drastically different dock build this game. Whereas last game we saw a lot of elite plague bearers and some bloodletters. Now we just got massive amounts of pink horror shooting.
Why do you think that is?
There's a lot more light armor between these two factions. Skaven and Norska, don't have a whole lot of heavy armor and don't have silver shields. So there's a lot of soft targets, but I'm curious what kind of frontline Warriors Chaos actually paired it with. They're also fairly resistant to something like the Plague Claw shooting, as well as globes, because they're spaced formation. They're actually fairly resilient to that. But also, they just have such high damage output and can absolutely roast things like Rat Ogres and Trolls, which are very, very common from both of these factions. So, for the Warriors of Chaos, I'm taking Chaos this time. I have made the executive decision.
All right. Go for it.
Looks like Archie's coming in with a very, very similar build. I suspect Bellacor's over there with the same. We've got a Nurgling frontline. I really like Nurglings against Skaven because they're so low model count. They actually take very, very little damage from things like globes and mortars and plague claws because they just don't take as much splash damage because there's fewer models to be hit.
Mm-hmm.
You got to back that up with Chaos Warrior Great Opens, which will trade very, very well to Marauders, Marauder Champions, a couple of Halberds, those pinks we talked about. And on the far side, we do have some Marauder Horsemen on the far side. I'm curious if these are just meant to be used as a flanking tool, or if they're going to come in and start shooting at things like Rat Ogres and weapons teams.
I do imagine they anticipate one hell of a Skaven backline, as we always should in a 2v2.
Yeah, Skaven backlines are real nasty.
Can you pan over to Archaon real quick? His stat line seemed a little bit crazy last time you looked at him.
I see nothing wrong here.
60, 500 AP, 104 charge bonus with 120 armor.
It's the Lord at the end times. What do you expect? Look at this Giga Chad.
Man. He is the Swiss Army knife. Not only that, he gives everything around him ITP. He has some physical resist. Like, there's just nothing this man does not have.
He doesn't have a right arm, it looks like. Or his sword, at least. Where's his sword? Do you see it?
It's in his sheath. He's riding along.
What sheath? I don't see a sheath.
He doesn't have a sheath.
Is it on his other hip? Actually, other hip. Ah, there it is, on the other hip. That makes more sense. That is how sheaths usually work. Anyway, enough of that. I see a mammoth. Do you see a mammoth?
I might have mentioned something about a mammoth last night with the leadership buff. He brought it. I'm so happy he brought it. That's the War Shrine one, right? So it gives physical resist too?
Yeah.
I love
Favor of Glory and Favor of the Ruinous Powers. Really nice buff.
It's a little bit weird to use with Skaven, but as a frontliner piece, it's great. It loves to dumpster infantry. It's very hard to kill. The leadership is nice. It's like a little Grail Relic on you at all times. The physical resist is incredibly clutch. It pairs great with monstrous infantry, so hopefully they brought some trolls to back it up. We've got Wolfric over there. Does he have typical Wolfric kit?
Yep.
Which is
Hunter of Champions and Seafang, as well as a horse.
Just a really great piece. Can just jump into backlines. It's pretty durable, and Hunter of Champions is great. We have these. So the Skaven tech that we were talking about last time we saw Skaven. If you don't know, if you wanted to zoom in on that chieftain real quick, he's got this ability called Power Grab. Yep, and it makes it so if your lord has died or is routed, then everyone on the map will get 8 leadership. 8 leadership is a lot, and what you do is you bring a Skaven slave lord, and you desummon it, which counts as your lord being gone. So now every single unit on this side has 8 plus 8 leadership, which may not sound like a lot, but it absolutely changes the way Skaven play and will help Norska quite a bit too, because they're also not the highest leadership faction. So
These Marauders have 81 leadership between Power
have,
Grab,
like,
and that's
yep, that's higher than base Chaos Warriors. Go look at the Chaos Warriors on the other side.
Chaos Warriors have 83. Get wrecked.
So those Marauders have just as much, well, flank secured and all that.
Get wrecked. But that's before the Mammoth even comes in and gives them an additional plus 10. They're practically unbreakable at this point.
To put this into perspective, Trolls, who normally have low leadership, I believe it's 45, will have plus 18 near the Mammoth. That's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah. The leadership stacking for Norska and Skaven, traditionally fairly low leadership factions, is going to be brutal. They're going to be unbreakable on the front line. Yep. And that's going to be really, really hard for Walk to break through.
So we're seeing some Marauder Champions and Marauders. Marauder Champions are one of the best units in the game. They just accomplish so much with 50 weapon strength, and 56 melee defense. We see Jeziles, we see Mortars, pretty typical Skaven shenanigans. They seem to have a little bit more infantry. What are we looking at? We're looking at
Tail Slashers, Council Guard.
Okay, yeah. So Clan Vulcan Sail Slashers, they're great. That's just definitely a unit you see a lot. Council Guard are definitely one I think has a lot of promise, but is a little bit underexplored. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. And then we have Catapults and Rogers, pretty typical.
Yep. Nice little Skaven backline, Norscan frontline. Pretty devastating combo. So let's see how this pans out. So typically how this map plays, and we've seen it many times in 2 videos before, is this map is this point is kind of the focal point. Just objective 2, because objectives 1 and 3 are pretty far into your opponent's territory, so you have to go really, really deep if you want to hold that. So typically teams prefer to fight over objective number 2. Now, this has some advantage and disadvantage. Namely, these trees provide excellent cover if you're having to be a melee faction hunkering on this point and not wanting to get shot to bits. So, I suspect it'll be on the Skavens and the Norska to actually either push objective 1 or force the fight off of objective 2 into the open field where they can be shot, or just have mortars fire straight over the trees and into the pit, potentially losing some efficacy as they are hitting trees a bit.
That is one advantage that mortars have over over typical line guns, is that they have the arc to fire over the trees. And I believe we saw the Skaven Lord be summoned. What kind of magic we got? What kind of Lord is it?
Ikit Claw.
Ikit. And is he on a, let's see, which one?
Doom Flare.
Flare. Yeah, because that's a little bit cheaper. He brought same kit that we saw him with last time. Just really good kit. He's not on the wheel this time, but this is pretty typical for Ikit. He just rides around, getting a lot of magic, dumping a lot of spells, and getting a ton of value off Cleansing Ruin.
Yep. And you don't really need the Pterosaurs from the Doom Wheel because you have this bad boy. The Mammoth.
You do indeed.
Now, I like this from the Force of Chaos. They're not eager to rush this game positions. They're just capping to objectives and playing as far back as possible and saying, if you want it, come get it. Come forward, come out of your little box, and come fight us. Which is really not what this game want to be doing.
Yeah, and Nurglings offer a beautiful capture tool. Not only are they a little bit faster than a lot of your other infantry, they don't give not that much of a damn about mortars. They're too cheap to really care if they die, so what? B, loose formation, high HP per model, and low model count. So, the Avalanche doesn't really want to be shooting them anyways.
Incoming!
As we were saying.
Yeah, not a lot of damage. These guys are also super cheap and super tanky, so you're not super concerned about those shots. That said, you can also fall back into the trees to reduce the effectiveness of those shots even more and really, really force these Skaven into a peculiar situation.
So if you're Norse Skaven right now, you have a bit of a choice. And you could try to push 2. I mean, currently you're a double cap. You could try to push 2, but a lot of your shooting won't be able to help you. Or you could just say screw it and try to run down into objective 1, which is your opponent's safe objective. What would you do if you're in this position? I
think if you're Norse Skaven, you really just want to just push up to about the middle and just start shelling shots onto objective 1 and force your opponent off. And then push up with a small contingent of the Mammoth and maybe some Trolls to cap. And then if the opponent can contest the Mammoth and the Trolls, they just get shot to pieces. Got a beautiful Highland Warp coming in, catches the Fury and the Be'lakor flank, as well as a Frenzy Rune coming to punish Be'lakor. Mortar shots are a little questionable. They don't do a whole lot to single entities. We got some not wolf rats, Fleshhounds coming in. Should be intercepted by the Rat Ogres, but they should be just fine. They can pull out just fine. The
Oh,
corn
we've seen
the corn
those
pullout
teeth
game is strong.
breakers.
Oh, they get right on the Giselles, and Giselles
Oh,
are incredibly
teeth.
squishy. Skin Wolves and Radogers
So
are coming to
clean.
peel, but it looks like it's going to be a little too late. The damage has been done. Pitch Shade's coming in a little ambitious. Low model count on the Avalanche Morris, but they'll probably survive that, even if it does hit. It does catch about half the unit in it. Meantime, the Pinks are shooting up and trying to shoot into the back of these Warplock Giselles. Beautiful damage, and they, like I said, they're very, very squishy, especially when they're facing away, so they don't benefit from those silver shields they typically have. On the far side, we do have a bit of a disconcerted engagement. We got 2 fights on 2 different sides, which is really not what you want when you're playing this missile line. And that Burning Head is beautiful. Gets the Marauder and Clan Vulcan Tail Slash. It's like 1,000 gold Burning Head right there. Absolutely beautiful. And Fleshhounds are into the cookie jar. Get right on top of those weapon teams, the Teeth Breakers, the Giselles, all getting shut down by a single Fleshhound. That's destroying the back line.
And from the 2 games you've seen him so far, you can tell that Ghouls Baby knows how to break a back line. I mean, his opponents have not had an easy time keeping their stuff safe either of these games. Skaven, they still have a good bit of their stuff intact, but it's only a matter of time before the rest of this backline starts crumbling.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, you're absolutely right about Ghouls Baby and Falja. I know they've been practicing a lot because they keep showing up in my DMs asking me to practice.
While we're trying to play games like Hunt.
Yeah. But no, these two are going hard. They've been on the grind, and it's definitely paying off here. Some beautiful engages so far.
Excited to see them break their way into the tournament
But,
scene.
yeah.
I love that we see the Teeth Breakers here because they're one of my responses to lords like Be'lakor, where you hit them with a net and the Teeth Breaker have unparalleled DPS. It's the Aurora Rattling Guns.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have some unparalleled DPS and we can really punish an overzealous Be'lakor play.
So the red team is starting to push up, and now we got, again, a little bit of disjointed push. We got some pushing for Objective 1 and some for Objective 2, and that's really not what you want from this missile line. Oh, that Pit of Shades. Does it catch them? Okay, they get out just barely. Teeth Breaker's going to take a bit of damage.
Yeah, most of the damage has been avoided.
Okay.
I see
false
an
alarm.
amazing Burning Head in the tree. That there's like 2 Nurglings holding back so many units. Ah, okay, so he pulled some things back. There was more in there for sure.
Yeah, that
but
counts
this is
as
excellent play from Ghouls Baby again. These 2 or 3 Nurgling units are just in the trees. They can't be shot right now. They're holding back a massive front while his partner gets into position, gets ready to hold the point.
Yeah, and I love how disciplined the Warriors Chaos player here is being, just holding all these Chaos Warriors in reserve until they need to fight. They don't have to be fighting yet, so they're just chilling back here where they can't be shot, and that's exactly what you want to be doing a lot of the time against these missile factions.
Yep, if you can't break a missile backline in domination, you want to try to minimize some of the value they generate while you can hold objectives for long enough that their missile play doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it also forces those missiles to come further and further into the map, where they just become more exposed. Like, look how far away the front line is now from the catapults and the Giselles. They're so exposed. If Fleshhound or Fury comes back here, there's going to be nothing to peel for them.
Speaking of which, those Marauder, oh my god, the skirmish cap that we were talking about at the very beginning of the game that's in the trees, they're just still waiting to pounce.
We got Arcana and Be'lakor picking a fight with Wolfric, and Wolfric, oh, he does not want that fight. He may be the Eternal Challenger, but he is not ready for these Lords of Chaos to come and end him. Oh, he's so squishy comparatively, and with no healing available. He does pop, his Hunter of Champions to give Be'lakor the slow and try to run away, and Arcana seems to have better things to do, so Wolfric will survive for the moment. But yeah, that flank on the far side looks pretty primed to just come in and tear apart the Skaven missile pieces that are largely undefended.
Wolfric is definitely one of those lords that you want to try to keep near your front line, just fighting and having Seafang uses. But you definitely don't want him to overextend. And
Burning baby.
Brutal, Burning Head plus Pit of Shades.
Yeah, the fact that the fight is so balled up on this side objective makes these Blood Punch spells, as well as things like Globes, incredibly effective. And the Capitals just shelling in damage as well as the Leadership Discourage effect, just making sure everything, including their own Rat Ogres, are not able to actually stick in the fight.
Yeah, Pink Taurus are just so great at just shelling monstrous infantry and really, really punishing them. And you can tell, when you're talking about how much practice these players had earlier, you can see the amount of coordination. They're just that Pit of Shade.
Oh, beautiful Sword of Khorne! That's such a lucky roll from Demons of Chaos.
Yeah, you can see the level of coordination between these players.
Look at all these
one
dead
strike after another.
Look at the dead rats! Look at all the dead rats! Sorry, I enjoy some dead rats.
It's okay. We saw just like Burning Head right after Pit of Shade, right after it's Sword of Khorne. They're definitely calling it out. They definitely would be like, all right, I'm gonna hit it, then you hit it, then you hit it. Constant damage, constant punishment, constant leadership breaking. Oh my god.
Looks like
This
Bellacor's
battlefield
or
is
Archaon is in a
chaos.
little bit of a sketchy situation. He's surrounded by armored skin wolves, and honestly, Wolfric wants to turn around and join that fight. He could do quite well. But these anti-large monster infantry can do very, very good work against Archaon. The Werekin's coming in as well to try and tear apart, and with that massive anti-large AP weapon damage, Archaon needs to be a little bit careful here. He needs to get some support back here, or try to get out. But with the massive skin wolves, give him a hard time getting back out. Although I say that this. Faja's Archaon has been the slipperiest little guy I've seen in ages. He just never seems to get caught up, and it's very, very good control from him. And he's just making sure Ikit is gone. Get rid of that caster. We saw how much work he did in the last game,
Oh,
just
man.
casting Flensing Ruin. And he's just making sure that that is not going to happen to him again.
Haas's Archaon micro is definitely something to behold. He is just moving around. Even if he gets in a bad fight, the armor and the fire damage affords him a little bit of room. He's routed off Ikit, which is massive. He's Spirit Leeching Wolfric just to prime him for a snipe later on. And we have Fleshhounds jumping on top of the artillery now as Ikit falls. Did he blow up?
Have you never seen that? Yeah, Ikit has an explosion. Pretty sure
I
it
did
deals
not know that.
I think it deals damage too.
That's...
Yeah,
oh my
I think it
God.
has I'm pretty sure it has the most cleave of any attack in the game.
It's really sad that Mark of Assyrian doesn't work, but that's a thing. But that happens when Ikit dies.
Marco Stern, yeah, not important.
on the
Anyway.
on the RR Phoenix Guard.
Yeah, the snipe's coming in, trying to get off
Yep.
Wolfric 2, and trying to just destroy the leadership core of.
Oh, man,
And this
is
chieftain,
brutal.
does not need to be helping. This chieftain needs to be running because he's providing that plus leadership for the whole army. And if he dies, that's gone. And honestly, he's a massive priority target for Be'lakor and the Archaon. So much damage being done. And meanwhile, Skaven are slowly starting to take objective number 2 as they do wear down the Warriors of Chaos forces. They don't have a whole lot left here themselves. They're relying on just tattered pieces of Council Guard, some Marauders, some Clan Rats. Like, the Mammoth has to put this team on its back, although they are just fighting to the end. I mean, look, the leadership buffs from the Mammoth and the Chieftain are actually doing really, really good work, but the value is not looking very favorable for the red team, and they are almost being forced in a position where they will have to 3-cap. Just a really rough
Yeah.
spot to be in.
We missed it a little bit earlier, but the Glow play and the Mammoth play have been pretty excellent at breaking Objective 2. I mean, their backline's not very intact, which is a big L for them, but they've done... Lazarus and Drakons have done a great job at making a concerted push towards 2 and taking it. And they still have a lot of units left over to run over into Objective 1. There's not a lot of the units that the Chaos Duo has on the field is like backline harass and stuff like that, but they don't have that much frontline stuff left, and that's what happens when this game player brings globes, and the globes aren't dealt with super well.
Yeah, Archaon and Be'lakor have been a little busy hunting down characters, so the globes have been kind of unchecked. But the problem is they do just as much damage to the Skaven frontline as they do to their own. And I suspect once Faza gets those units back in his summoning pool, they're all going to be spammed out in quick succession, as he is banking a lot of resources. They also have a pretty solid contingent of Demons of Chaos forces over here on Objective 1, which I think needs to be captured. I'm not quite sure about the math at the moment, but...
I'll do the math real quick, just keep the audience entertained.
yeah, the Mammoth does overextend it a little bit. Now it's surrounded by
They are not
Fleshhounds
in
and
triple
Screamers
category.
and Be'lakor. Oh, that's actually really, really good. If they can hold on to Objective 2, then that's actually a way for them to get back in this game. I'm curious if the Chaos Duo knows about that.
No, my bad, they are. My bad. I reversed the numbers.
Okay.
They are. Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that.
The Mammoth does go down, and Screamers or Fleshhounds should be able to chase off the field, which is another massive hit to the red team's leadership core. There's a lot of units here, but now that their lords are routing, their leadership buffs are waning, they're not going to last nearly as long, especially with Be'lakor wandering around terror routing, as well as Archaon.
Yep.
Skaven are not known for their leadership, and Norska is only middling as far as leadership goes, so with these two terror-causing Lords of Chaos coming in, as well as a fresh wave of Chaos Warriors, this point is not going to hold long, and they're recapping so quickly.
Yep, and I think the Mammoth walking his way out is kind of a good representation for the state of the game currently. The Mammoth just said, "I'm head out," and is running away, and so is the rest of the front line for everything else. It was so contingent on the Mammoth piece, so much leadership, so much physical resistance. Now that that's not here, they're just being feasted upon.
The leadership stacking is pretty nasty. The problem is all the different pieces providing it got separated and picked apart by these two characters. The coordination on the snipes was really good from the Chaos Duo. And like I said, that practice is paying off as they do advance to our finals, I believe.
Yeah, we've been seeing some very impressive play from Foss and Ghoul Baby. Drakons and Lazarus were one of my favorites going into this tournament, so they definitely managed to find some competition here.
Yeah.
The Fleshdowns, as always, good value.
A lot of
The Screamers, I noticed the Screamers were doing really well this game. Oh my god! What was that?
probably weapon teams, I
What is it
assume.
doing?
I didn't see it. I
I
assume
guess
weapon
so.
teams, yeah.
I guess so. How much value did Be'lakor get?
Not actually that much compared to the last couple of games. Only a cool 3,900.
Only 4,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Archie 33. Chaos Warriors got globed. The Skaven experience in a nutshell. And yeah,
Yep.
Wolford got shut down real hard. He just couldn't get in the fight with those two big single entities from his opponents with no real support on his own. To no fault
The
of his
Mammoth
own. Like,
didn't
there's
do
just
very
not a
much.
lot of options. Yeah, the Mammoth, I mean, the leadership buffs were pretty nice, but it did just overextend and get taken out a little bit too soon. The Skaven web teams, the Fleshhound and Fury play from Ghouls Baby was very clean to get on those weapon teams, make sure they were not allowed to fire. Oh, Nikic only got 1,300 value. I've never seen so little. I've never seen so little value from Nikic, even in a 1v1.
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Honestly, like I can definitely tell Ghouls Baby's been practicing. Like his micro with his mobility piece has been on point and has been punishing. Everywhere you looked, there was a Fleshhound, there was a Screamer, like a Screamer boxing in one of the characters, a Fleshhound jumping into the back line, a Fury on one of the weapon teams. They just did not let it go. Or Pink's enflating volleys into lightly armored units.
Yeah. So I believe one of our that was our first semifinal game. I believe our other semifinal game one of our teams had to drop out. So we will be moving on straight to the finals.
Unfortunately, one of the partner of that player did not show up, so it was an unfortunate situation, but it happens.
Yep. Now we are moving on to the finals between, who do we have? We have Stingers, so Team RTK versus Worlds Collide. And I do see some questions in chat, which I will get to as soon as I fix these banners.
Yep, and it looks like we actually have pretty similar builds coming out from what we saw last time. Both players, or all four players, I should say, are really just keeping to what they know and keeping it together and using the proven strats and not really going too far out of bounds. I will say though, we see the Sister of Slaughter in the reinforcements of the Stingers, which is actually that's a pretty new one. I'm interested to see how they do. They definitely are a good hedge against Chaos Warriors. I would be worried against them into Doc though, because Doc has a lot of DPS against lightly armored units.
So catch up with the chat. Hello, Mr. BD. Welcome to the stream. And this is RTK Sandwich casting with me, host of the tournament. Hello. And my clanmate. Yep, using the new patch to all those great balance changes. Hey, the capes aren't clipping anymore, man. Massive elf buffs.
Yeah, as I said, as much as it was an amazing trailer, I would have liked to see a few balance changes for multiplayer, but it is what it is. I think all of CA's budget for their patching team went into that trailer.
I haven't actually watched the trailer yet.
It's a really cool trailer, admittedly.
Right. So for the finals, we do have Team RTK back with Dark Elf Skaven versus the Chaos Duo on Walkdock. So as we're saying, pretty similar build for Warriors Chaos. We have the Pinks, we got Be'lakor, and this will play similarly to the last one, I assume, for Warriors Chaos against the Skaven, just trying to break that Skaven gun line. Yeah, very similar build.
Yep.
I think it's actually
exactly what we've seen so far.
I think it's actually the exact same build we saw last game. So Warriors Chaos Warriors, backed up by Pinks, Silk of Purple and Nurglings, and then the two Lords of Chaos themselves.
Can we just check spell kits real quick? Just to see if anything's
Burning
changed.
Head,
Nope,
Spirit
Burning
Leech.
Head, Spirit Leech.
And Pit of Shades, Enfeebling Foe.
Oh, you brought Enfeebling Foe. Interesting.
It makes sense given how much sniping they're doing, because these two are very effective sniping doing. There's not a lot of SEMs that can stand up to them.
I mean, they're just one after the other. Arcan and Be'lakor are usually chasing the same targets. They're doing a really great job at it.
That is true.
Any more questions from chat before we move on?
There was a question could I turn you up? And the answer was yes.
Oh, let's go.
Okay, so for this game, we got a lot of skirmishers coming in. We got 4 Night Runners, the Raven's Heralds, Repeater Crossbows, some Death Runners. Oh, this is a spicy game build. I like it. Not a lot of stack mobility. I'm curious if I guess they had no way to watch the previous game as we are casting a little delayed. So there's a lot of very hard to catch shooting, not a lot of static squishy ones. Just a couple of globes, mortars, and a Rattling gun.
As a Skaven player myself, I love to see builds that rely a little bit less on weapon teams and more on like monsters and more on ninja rats. You can get a lot done with that. I've used the all Eshin build as kind of a meme, but it actually is surprisingly good when you can catch an opponent off guard and just hit them from a bunch of angles with stealth troops.
Yeah, well, the roster's biggest Skavens, I mean, they've had, what, like 6-7 DLCs? They've got a lot of playstyles they can actually lean into, so I do like seeing a little bit of a departure coming in for Team RTK.
Skaven are definitely favorites from CA. They're one of the only races that's completely unique to Warhammer Fantasy, so it does make sense.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I'm assuming we got the same kit for Team RTK as well, right? Spell
Malekith,
kit, that
yep.
is.
Gaze of Malice, Soul Stealer, Chillwind, and Ikit with Flensing Ruin and Howling Warp Gale. Yep.
So
Pretty
Chillwind's
standard.
not something we normally see on Malekith. I know you're a Dark Elf player. Why is he bringing that? What do you think?
It does provide you a bit of an anti-armored infantry spell. Both these factions don't typically bring something that can actually clear Chaos Warriors, so having that little bit of magic armor piercing damage to help get rid of the Chaos Warriors can be kind of nice.
If your globes are disposed, yes.
Or out of range or across the map, having a mobile cast like
for
Malekith
sure.
is extremely useful for that kind of thing. Now, I'm curious how our teams will play this, because unlike the last map, this objective, these 2 and 3 on this little half pipe here, aren't really that deep, so it's pretty viable to actually push through the center and cap. So I'm curious which side the Skaven are going to push forward to. Because we kind of see Walk doing the same thing they did last game, where they're just kind of putting a toe on the objective and trying to force the Skaven to come forward. But in this instance, now we actually have skirmishers to force Walk off the point unless they just want to start taking the shots.
Yep, I love this map. I think it offers a lot of dynamic play, and also it's pretty visually cool. I will, if I have to say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if for those of you who don't know, this is a greenskin map in a volcano. For those of you who don't know, we're using the Total Tavern map pack, which is a custom map pack made by Waka Waka 3000 and has a bunch of other map making contributors. And it's used for tournament play and domination, because the domination base game maps are a little bit hit or miss.
The Witch King coming to the aid of his elite cavalry. Oh, I love me some Dark Elves, baby.
I love the Dark
On the
Elf
far
cast.
side. Speaking of things I love, the Avalanche Mortars, half health off of Chaos Warrior. That's like 400 value off of one volley. We got Ikit on his Doom Wheel coming in as well, trying to chase off Be'lakor. Oh no, the Raven's Heralds! Not the Raven's Heralds! Yeah, they're a little worse for wear, but they're Terror. They'll be back. Malekith coming in, trying to punish Be'lakor. But Be'lakor's just gonna skedaddle. And that's kind of Malekith's job, is just to babysit Be'lakor and make sure he can't have fun. And we did have Howling Warp Gale come in, as well as the Shadow Shroud, and he gets to land. Oh, that's kind of nice. Gets him out of this, away from the shooting. Darkshards kind of try and come in and start shooting him, but the problem with having Darkshards help Malekith with duels, that Malekith's wingspan is so wide that he often eats a lot of friendly fire shots. It's actually a little bit risky coming in, to be honest. On the far side, we do have some fighting breaking out. The Avalanche Wars are absolutely shelling in damage. Fury flank coming in, getting, it looks like, just destroyed by these Rattling guns.
Yeah, but they're chasing those Raven Heralds off, and the Raven Heralds are looking just a little bit worse for wear, and that's a pretty expensive unit. Over on this objective, we're seeing the Avalanche just in a pocket, like fucking one-tapping units. Oh my god.
And this is such a nice position for the mortars, because nothing else really gets line of sight to them. They can just sit like right down here in this valley and just fire up over the hill at short range, getting really accurate shots. It's absolutely devastating, as you've been
Swarv
seeing.
is bringing the heat. Oh man, that's impressive. It's just so punishing.
Yeah, and Swarv really seems...
Globes too.
Yeah, Swarv seems to be very, very practiced at this missile-heavy style. It's what we've seen when we've seen him play previously in 2v2s. It's what he seems extremely comfortable on. Now, little bit concerned here, because as I discussed in the last map, Skaven are kind of Skaven and Dark Elves are kind of pushing both sides of the map, which I find a little bit suspect, to be honest. You usually want to consolidate your forces as much as possible when you're playing a missile line like this. So you'd want to sit like here and just play, you know, either 1 and 2, or sit over here and play 2 and 3. But we actually then pushing from both sides. SCM blob? Blobbing is happening. Malekith is getting beaten to crap, and he is dead. Oh. Oh, that's bad. The Archaon Be'lakor duo is so deadly, especially with the Hellstriders and the Screamer support. Be'lakor's taking a lot of damage, but he'll just walk away and heal up, and he still has 3,500 hit points. He still has... Okay, not quite more than Ikit, but Ikit needs to be careful as well. He needs to start zooming away and getting back to his support. And yeah, that's a really tough loss. Malekith still had most of his wall. That said, in 2v2, it's entirely possible for him to be resummoned, as we do see people getting supply capped a lot. So, maybe that's surprised to see him come back, but losing him that early is a massive value lead over for Ghouls of Faza. But on this side, they're just taking so much damage. The Avalanche War has been allowed to spend so much ammo, 180 kills, 1900 value, as well as the catapults firing in. This position just seems so hard for Chaos to assail. This is such a safe position down here for all these indirect fire missile pieces. Even with the Manticore coming to try and deal with it. Look at these Rat Ogres just coming to back up their little bros. Come on. Get off the mortar. Shoo, you silly Manticore.
Yeah, and we can see how much of a back and forth game this is. I mean, we've been watching the Avalanche just devastate units, and then we see Malekith get sniped on the other side. So we definitely have like really seasoned players making great work.
Ikit's not far behind with nothing around here really to support him.
Yep.
Archaon and Be'lakor, as well as the Screamers and Hellstriders, just able to, to just chase him down.
Archaon is such a bully, man. I can see why he's Lord of the End Times. He's such a dick.
But no, I suspect, yeah, that's going to be a huge hit to leadership again. But honestly, it might not matter.
All this, value is kind of even, though.
Yeah, the value is managed to stay very, very even, because honestly, on the right side, Warriors of Chaos are winning very, very heavily, but on the left side, the script is flipped. It's the Dark Elves and the Skaven, and we see the Blight Skies playback coming in once more to try and just farm off these Armored Infantry units, but the Armored Infantry is already dead. There's not really any good targets for them except blues. I mean, they'll take, but oh, I love the Avalanche Mortar. Such a good unit.
That was not as devastating as I was.
No, the slope kind of messed with the shot, but we're not going to talk about it. They're good boys. They've done well. And they're still sitting at 8 out of the 12 models. They're still doing a load of damage on every volley. Come on, make me happy. Okay, that was okay.
That was a little bit better.
On the far side, Ikit is routing off the map, being chased by escorted by Hellstriders. He ain't coming back. So, I suspect Warriors of Chaos will try to bring some infantry over here and start taking objective 2. I really love seeing them just say, you know, you can have objective 1. That position is really untenable for us. So we're just going to push down the middle, and I think it's a really solid position to be in. But at the moment, Skaven and Dark are actually backcapping objective number 3 somehow. And that could be really, really devastating for the Warriors of Chaos. If they manage, okay, they're not going to let the cap happen, but if they could fall behind in points too far, it'd be a really awful spot to come back into, because being down in points and being forced to push all sides of the map against a missile squad like this can be really, really hard to pull off.
Both teams are doing really great, and it's a very scrappy game. I will say, even though the value is more or less even, vaguely even, it's like 1,000 lead, but it's not that much. The big deficit we're going to start to see is for the Skaven Dark Elf player, they no longer have magic on the field. It's not only the leadership debuffs from losing their lords, although that doesn't actually affect Skaven. Well, no, it does, because he didn't do the bug. The glitch,
he didn't do the thing.
So it is going to affect Skaven. We're going to really be feeling those lack of Soul Stealers, there's lack of Flensing Ruin, just the lack of blob punish in general, the lack of SEM killing in general.
Well, you say lack of blob punish. I would like to introduce you to mortars and globes.
There's a reason I corrected to SEM.
I don't know, I've said it many times before, I think you don't really worry about Be'lakor if you're playing Skaven. You just kind of say, Be'lakor will do what he's going to do. You can't do a whole lot about it, because it just takes so many resources to actually put him down. And if you don't put him down, well, he's just wandering around at low HP, and you've committed so many resources that have come to nothing. So I think it's just much more reliable to just ignore him and just focus on killing his army, which is what the Skaven have been doing to great effect, minus, you know, the Lords.
You know, we were kind of counting. So the value right now is actually kind of dead even, because a lot of the value that team Skaven, the team RTK has, is on Be'lakor, it's on Archaon, and those guys are still fighting at full capacity because they're not yet dead, right? So that's actually what we kind of term as fake value.
Yeah. What I'm really, really worried about here for Skaven is that they're relying so much on the Avalanche Mortars, who are doing absolute work. They've got 3,200 value, but they're almost out of ammo. Once the Avalanche Mortars are off the field, there's not a lot here to just keep punishing all this infantry that's coming in for the Warriors of Chaos. So I don't know if they're going to be able to hold these objectives once those Avalanche Mortars are off the field. They're going to need to be able to get these globes up in close personal to actually take out these Chaos Warriors while also holding them off the objective, which sounds like a really tall order to me.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You said Malekith in this matchup is a lot of time, or well, in general, would be used a lot of times to try to keep Be'lakor in a cage, to try and babysit him, stop him from having fun. If Malekith loses to Be'lakor, and I've seen a lot of people ask this, when Malekith loses to Be'lakor in a straight-up fight, how can he be used to cage Be'lakor down?
You wait for him Be'lakor to engage on something else. You get him to land, and then Malekith can just land on top of him and get a free charge. And usually gets a favorable trade that way. And you can also support him with things like the Crows of Cain, or the Raven's Heralds, or Cold One Knights that also trade very, very effectively into Be'lakor. And just kind of use those as a little bit of a sweeping squad in your backline to keep Be'lakor, keep him off of your missiles.
Yep, and this is one reason why even units like Valkia, who would get dumpstered by Be'lakor in a straight-on fight, can actually be used to keep him in check. Because anytime Be'lakor wants to land on something, Valkia just goes in with anti-large. She's kind of hard to hit. You can support her great with things like Flesh Hounds, and she can really bully some of the more expensive lords that might even beat her in a 1v1.
Ikit is back, and so is Flensing Ruin, baby!
And that's
Skaven Gaming at its finest, my friends. Oh, that's some nice damage. Chaos Warriors, Marauders, Archie. A few more good Flensing Ruins, and Archie could actually be forced off the field very, very quickly. But Ikit is in a pretty exposed position. He starts running back to his Rat Ogres. If he dies again, that could be absolutely devastating.
Even little brutalized Archaon, who's taken a ton of damage, just comes in, hits Ikit once, puts a Spirit Leech on him, and Ikit's already down like 25% of its HP. That's so insane. Oh my god.
Worst case, are able to recapture Objective 1 before being forced into 3-cap territory, which is really, really good. If they'd been forced into 3-cap territory, there might be a much better looking fight for this game, but we still see the commitment on both sides of the map for the Dark Souls game, which I really don't like. I feel like you're spreading yourself so thin when you really want to be playing around these missile pieces, and it's really punishing them.
I definitely think that the map strategy for Team Chaos has been just that little bit better, but it's still a very close game. Oh, that pit. Well, are those
are Night Runners.
Yeah, that's still like a.
Also got chuckled. The pedal didn't go up, but he's gonna try. He'll catch him anyway. But his buddy Swarv is on top of the micro.
Is on top of it. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Good on Swarv.
But Swarv is simultaneously losing Ikit Claw to Be'lakor once again. Round 2, second verse, same as the first. The snipe for this duo is just so strong. But it's the return of the king, baby! Maliketh's back, and now Be'lakor is low health. So Maliketh should be able to just bully his way around this little schoolyard here. But I just worry there's not enough force on the ground to actually support him and help take these objectives back and remove all of these Chaos Warriors. Especially if Maliketh is just going to sit here. Come on, baby.
This is the issue you run into when you're resummoning Lords in Domination, is you're saving up 3,000 to resummon, not Ikit, but Maliketh, or 2,000 to resummon Ikit. That's through 2,000 or 3,000 gold you lose in map presence, and units that can hold objectives, and units that can push a back line, and units that can hold your front line together. So all of a sudden, the ground presence of these of this team is going to be a lot less than what we were seeing before they resummoned their Lords.
Yeah, and you can see that on the battlefield. There's just not a lot of green or blue banners left. It's a lot of red on the field, but just all the green and blue have been pushed so far back. Because they're just not able to summon in reinforcements because they spent, probably 5,000 combined on these two Lords.
Yep, and even though value is even, there's nothing for them on the field because of that. Sometimes it's worth it, but usually I would say, at least in 1v1s, resummoning your Lord's a bit iffy. In 2v2s, maybe it makes a little bit of sense for one of you to resummon your Lords, though, for sure. Yeah,
it's definitely a situational thing in 2v2s. You gotta be in the right situation, but honestly, I feel like they need something to contain Be'lakor and Archaon. And they're so low that now they really can't bully their way through, so Maliketh could honestly probably take them both in 2v1, especially since he still has a lot of WOM available for those Soul Stealers.
Ooh, that breath attack. If Maliketh can get some terror routes down here, and they can maybe take objective 3 for a little bit. They have a smooth avenue back into the game. It's going to be hard with how few units they have on the field, though. But there are some more reinforcements coming out. Maybe this is the push they need.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Dark Souls game be able to retake objective 3, and I like this. They finally stopped reinforcing objective number 1, just going for the low ground. But nope, no, they're actually still reinforcing. I was hoping, but there's a lot of Chaos Warriors and Marauders coming in, just a lot of reinforcements coming in. I'd love to see them heavily commit to one side and try and finish off Archaon. Come on, he's so low. A Flensing Ruin and a Soul Stealer at the same time, and he's a goner. Come on, give it to me. Okay, there's a Howling Warp Gale.
Oh, that's a Howling Warp Gale.
Howling Warp Gale.
Come on, follow up with a Flensing Ruin. Follow up with the Flensing Ruin.
Nope, he's got Shadow Shroud popped as well. There's the Flensing Ruin, and Shadow Shroud will have worn out some of its duration.
Shadow Shroud.
Doesn't matter, the durations are much different. Actually, it's a Soul Stealer, so never mind. But Maliketh should be able to finish off Be'lakor there, which is huge. But now there's just so many bodies on these objectives. There's not a whole lot of globes here to clear them off. There's a couple up here. We should do some good work, but okay, Be'lakor goes down. But there's just so many bodies, so many Chaos Warrior bodies. Don't know how they're going to remove it. And the Festering Stooges, oh, that's just Exalted Plague Bears, but still, there's nothing here to kill them. There's no globes in the area. As we said, there's no real blob punishment spell, like infantry clearing spells. There's no Burning Head, there's no Pit of Shades, there's not even a Crack's Call to come and try and kill off these Plague Bearers, these Chaos Warriors. Yep. They really need globes wherever they want to take the fight. The problem is they've got their Lords over here and their globes over here, so they just don't have the forces they need in the right positions.
Yep, and you mentioned earlier that once those Avalanche Mortars are gone, they're going to have a really hard time holding any kind of map control because they just don't have the tools to punish anymore. Double that by just being 5,000 down from infantry units because you were resummoning your Lords. It's going to be hard to regain map presence, which is a really major factor in domination. The other major factor in domination we're seeing here is playing all 3 objectives at once is often considered a bad idea unless you have a very distinct mobility advantage. And we're seeing them, as you said, pushing two fronts at once, and they can't keep both fronts safe they can't keep their range units on both fronts safe.
Yeah, and I feel like that Lord Snipe in the beginning from Goulds and Faza was just so brutal. Because if the Lord Snipe doesn't come in, then Stinger Swarv don't have to spend so much gold to resummoning, which means they get those Avalanche Mortars back, they get more Rat Ogres, they get more Bleak Swords, and they have a front line to protect those mortars and just keep them online the entire game. And then it's a whole different story. There's no Chaos Warriors anywhere on the field alive. They're just not allowed to exist with those mortars online. But as it is, there's just nothing to stop those Chaos Warriors from just standing there menacingly. just taking these objectives and forcing these Bleak Swords. These Bleak Swords are just going to bounce right off. The Death Runners will do good work, but they're fighting Marauders, which is really a bit of a mismatch
Not what
here.
they want to be fighting.
Yeah, you love
And
to see that match
direct
going the other
charge
way.
instead of flank.
Yeah,
It
Death
is
Runners
a
are pretty,
testament to the skill
pretty
of these
decent.
players, though, that even despite that kind of bungle at the beginning with the double Lord Snipe, they're still in this. They're up in value, and they're still threatening this.
And they're taking this objective. There's
objective,
not a lot of
yeah.
reinforcements. Okay, the reinforcements are coming. Chaos Warriors and Halberds. If Skaven can take this objective before those reinforcements get here, they're still in this game.
Oh,
But
it's flipping. It's flipping.
it is indeed. And the really nice thing about actually resummoning Malekith is that he has his breath attacks back and his Gaze of Malice. He's a lot of chaff clearing abilities. If he can get back in the air and start casting breaths on these Chaos Warriors and these Death Runners. You say that they took the direct
Ooh,
charge.
Wow.
Death Runners are those are Corsairs. These are the Death Runners, and they're getting killed by globes.
So the
Doesn't
Death Runners
count.
Actually, the
Doesn't
Marauders didn't
count.
countercharge them. The Marauders trying to walk through them. But yeah, that was
Doesn't count globes interference.
Globe interference. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
but it looks like the Skaven Dark Elves actually might sneak this one out. The Warriors case aren't pushing on the low ground, so it's just this high ground fight. Can they actually hold them off in time? And it's that Gaze of Malice, like I said, 3 fresh charges when you resummon Malekith. So now the Force of Chaos just forces summoning in Fleshhounds, Hellstars, whatever they can to get on the objectives. Granted,
Finally,
there's
Escape from Firing Line is back.
there's not a lot on the field here to actually hold it for the Skaven, but Malekith is here, and there's no ITP sources for these Chaos Warriors anymore. Shieldwind coming in as well, getting that nice damage. And look at all these debuffs applied to them. Malekith come over here and start terror routing. Skaven and Dark Elves might be able to hold on to this just barely long enough. And the Plague Cloud Capitals as well, trying to punish all those Halberds. I really like this Rattle intercept as well. Just charge the Halberds, take some damage is fine, just intercept them, slow them down. Just try to buy time. It's all about time in this stage of the game.
If this objective stays on in Team RTK until 1450, then they'll probably be good. I'm calling 1450
need-
to cut off.
They need these Dark Riders and these Wolf Rats to get on this objective ASAP. They just need as much as they can, because that's what the Warriors of Chaos are doing. They're spamming mobility units as much as they can. Get on that objective, apply capture weight, but that stuff doesn't have a lot of capture weight. And there we go! They have to 3-cap now. Warriors of Chaos have to get on all 3 objectives, and they're not pushing on the low ground. They really need to be pushing on the low ground. These Halberds and this Plague Bears could ruin those Dark Shards, or whatever they're called, the Dark Elf Swordsmen. But as it is,
Words are hard, man. Words
looks
are very
like
hard.
Team RTK is going to sneak out the win at the last second. After all of that, they do manage to bring it back. The counter Lord Snipe finishing off Bellicor and Archaon, and they managed to just squeak it out at the end. Holy
game.
cow, that was
What a
incredible. I thought they were
Do you
out
think-
a long time ago.
I thought they were out a long time ago too. That was one incredible game. That's one to watch. Oh my god.
And that just
Do you
speaks to
think-
the resilience of these players. After going down so much, just keep in it, keep finding value trades, keep winning whatever engagement you can, and just keep the mental up.
It was very impressive. We have a really evenly matched game right now, which is fantastic. And this is actually a best of 3, so we're gonna have some more games, and it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to this. I want to ask, do you think that if Team Chaos had managed to desummon Archaon and Bellicor there instead of having them sniped out, I know Bellicor was killed. I don't know if Archaon was actually
I think
killed or not.
Archaon did get to desummon.
Do you think if they had desummoned Bellicor, that would have turned out differently, or no?
I don't think so. The DSUM doesn't get you a whole lot of money back, and Doc doesn't need their leadership as desperately. They kind of crumble away pretty readily anyway, so it doesn't really make a huge difference.
Yep. I'm impressed by the Whip Elves.
These are not Witch Elves.
Whip.
Oh, Whip
They carry
Elves.
whips.
Ah, I see.
They did really well. I was not expecting that at all. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, they're incredibly tanky. They have excellent melee defense. They are actually, I believe, they're an old school counter to Chaos Warriors, even back as far as Warhammer 2.
Yep, but demons have pink horrors.
So these mortars were summoned once.
Oh my god, that's so brutal, man.
I love this unit. I love seeing 2v2s because this unit is just so strong in 2v2, so I get to see it a lot. Death Runners did really well. Globes were doing, yeah. So while the front line got rolled over pretty early, the Skaven weapon teams were actually, Swarp did a very, very good job of just backing his backline up and just keeping them alive and getting shots off as much as possible.
Even those catapults, they did great. Were they summoned twice? They might have been summoned twice, but even then, they still did great.
Blightcast Blade Pack did some good work as well.
Yeah, Blightclaw's Blade Pack. That's like similar to what we were saying about the Exalted Bloodletters. That's a unit that can kind of shine in the mid game, even if they are a bit overcost for what they do. In the mid game, there's not a whole lot to stop them, so they can definitely just get in there and like get on the right targets and shoot them up, or chew them up. I mean.
Bellicor underperforming with a disappointing 4,400 value.
Oh, so
What
sad,
a shame.
so sad.
Yeah.
He only netted 1,400 value from his
Yeah,
guy. So
yeah.
sad. Oh my god, this plus one. Do they come in Chevron? They have to come in Chevron.
I don't know about that one. I'm gonna pull the next replays as I do have them sent to me. Where did I put it?
I am gonna respond to these DMs I have.
No, but it's your turn to talk and be entertaining.
I'm not good at that. I'm a terrible caster. I don't know why you brought me here.
Uh-huh.
I'm here. You're supposed to be entertaining. I just have the game knowledge, and then I pretend like I don't by asking you questions that I know the answer to for the audience's sake.
I see.
All right. So this is gonna be game 2. Do you think we're gonna change up the builds a little bit? I'm imagining Ghouls Baby and Fahasa. They might go back to the drawing board, and they have a Nurgle Soulgrinder. Okay.
You want a different?
Very good.
So we also have a different map. We've Isle of Forgotten Kings, which is not one we see a whole lot.
No, this is a bit of a fun map. This one's made by Waka. It plays pretty. It has some dynamic play elements. We don't see it as too much in super competitive tournaments because there are some. It hasn't been tested for balance yet, but it's really stunning to see, and I think it has a lot of dynamic gameplay elements. So it's a personal favorite of mine. I decided to throw it into the tournament and see how it went. And we actually, Stinger's opening up with a Whip Elf with a Sister of Slaughter in his opener. Interestingly enough.
So I haven't actually played this map in a long time, and I imagine most of our audience hasn't either. So can you explain to me what those extra objectives I'm seeing are?
Yeah, so one thing that Waka and I, when we were discussing this map, one issue that we came
Waka
to
is the map maker and the host of the mod, yeah?
He's the map maker, he's the one that runs the Total Tavern map pack mod, and he's also a childhood friend of mine. So if you want to pause the game and look around the map real quick, one issue that we came to when we were discussing this map is that the top position is pretty powerful. You can set up a gun line there, you have a native choke, and it can be pretty difficult to attack on. So the solution to that was, well, objectives 2 and 1 that are down the slope. Well, A, you can safe capture them as the other side, so you don't have to actually take that fight. B, if you're putting your whole army up there in the choke, then that means you don't have units anywhere else. So these extra points actually give you slightly more supplies per second. So normally you get 5 supplies a second to resummon units. These points give you 1 each, although they only give 1 to the team that this is on the side of the map. So if you take 2 of them, it doesn't actually do anything, right? Oh, sorry, you get 15 a second. So taking 1 of these will put you at 16 a second, I believe, which is a really mild buff, but it's enough that I think makes it that it discourages gun lines from just bunkering down on the top and not coming out to play.
We'll see.
That was very long-winded.
Yeah,
that was a very long-winded.
It's okay. Like I said, not a lot of people have seen these maps before, so it's worth talking about. Anyway, looks like this game build is fairly similar. We've got the Rattling Guns, Globes, Catapults, Avalanche Mortars, and then we have Sisters, Slaughter, Dread Spears, yeah. Pretty similar looking build for the Skaven and Dark Elves. Looks like it's mostly Skaven on this high ground with not a lot of frontline. I suspect we'll see some Clan Rats being summoned in, or maybe some Dread Spears or Bleak Swords. That's the infantry one. Coming to just try and protect this gun line, but there doesn't actually have that much surface area on this choke you were talking about, so a few units could actually hold that for quite a long time, especially with the shooting support. Now, I heard something about a Nurgle Soulgrinder.
I did see a Nurgle Soulgrinder. Oh my god.
I don't know about your experience. In my experience, these guys are typically used to bombard infantry or to counterfire skirmish cav. There is a lot of infantry over here, but I suspect the real threat is this shooting core, so I'm curious to see how well it does against those missile pieces.
I have a suspicion that it might be great at trading into things like Jeziles and Rattling Guns. We'll have to see about the Mortars and Globes, because they have higher HP per model, but it might not do badly, actually. I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
You want to talk? So, the
Backing
rest of the army is pretty standard.
Pinks, Marauders, you can if you'd like.
It's just the same thing we've been seeing. Warriors, some Marauders, some Pinks. Pretty typical stuff. You're just taking the strengths of both armies and mashing them together. We have some Screamers. It's really the Soulgrinder that's the interesting pick here. Now, one thing that I've seen people ask about 2v2s that I want to see what your opinion on is, I've seen 2v2s are kind of played in 2 different flavors. Either you put your 2 armies together and you move them like 1 unit with 2 different armies, or you spread your armies out separately and you move them like 2 different armies that are right next to each other. Which one is better and why?
I think I'm a fan of the former, where you play it as 1 large army. I think that's generally a more effective tactic because your units can synergize and actually become more than the sum of their parts. But that also is quite difficult and requires a good deal of coordination and communication, whereas having 2 side-by-side armies is much more user-friendly and easier to execute. So if you're playing it with a partner you're not as familiar with, I think it's definitely a very viable strategy.
Yeah, and for this tournament generally, it's not in the rules or anything, but generally it's encouraged to jump into voice chat with your partner so you guys can coordinate while you're in game, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Absolutely.
let's see how this plays out.
Yeah. So, curiously, I suspect that Worst Case and Doc will have a pretty good deal of dominance on the low ground, as there's plenty of space for Fleshhounds and Hellstriders to go and do what they do, and just get rear charges, win the mobility game, and just be an absolute terror. It's really going to be about this missile line up on the high ground to see if they can actually shut it down. Because this mortar position, able to contest 2 points, as well as the catapults as well, it's going to be really, really difficult for the Chaos Forces to deal with. And that Nurgle Soul Grinder is firing in. Is it doing anything at all?
Let's see.
Nope.
Yeah, it was questionable.
Turns out Nurgle sucks.
The Nurgle Soul Grinder
is fighting some Screamers.
That
What
was
is
a bit
this?
unfortunate.
Oh, I love Screamers, dude. They're such a cool unit. Anyway,
Those animations are very slick.
yeah.
I will say.
Bellicor is
See,
over
it's very
there just grinding on a wall, as is his wont, apparently. You know, we gotta make Slush happy somehow, I suppose. Gotta get some of the Dark Gods to love you.
He's actually dodging a lot of the shots by going up and down the wall. Well,
He was,
and
but now
using
he's
that
being
pop
netted.
phase cover. Now he's being netted. He has his shield at least, but generally Bellicor does not like Rattling guns.
Nope,
And
most
to the
flying
shades,
units
not
don't like
really
Rattling
into
guns.
guns.
I don't
It
know.
won't kill any models. It won't kill any models, but it might
No.
stop him from firing.
Yeah, that pulls them all towards the center. Just neat, but the mortars are firing in. They are whiffing pretty hard, and the only thing they're hitting is their own units. Yeah, like I said, pinks are actually pretty resilient against this mortar fire, which is one of the reasons I really like them here, because they can do exactly this. They can push up, and they can punish the Rattling guns that are caught in that blob by just focus firing them. And Rattling guns, unlike Gisele's, don't have shields. It's actually very, very squishy, that pink horror fire. It's a really nice play actually coming in
Did that
from
Rattling
Ghouls
gun
and
take a
Thassa.
pink horror volley, or was
Yeah,
that
it
all
took
the
two.
shades?
It took two pink
Okay,
horror
cool,
volleys.
cool.
These two pink horrors pushed up and shot it. It was very clean. But the fire coming in from these Skaven is just devastating. And this is that position we were
Yep.
talking about. Like, that position was such an issue for this map. It's why you have those lower objectives that only one of these teams seem to have bothered to capture.
Yeah, when you're playing an aggressive faction on this map, and you know this map hasn't been played much in competitive play at all, so it's definitely going to take players some time to figure it out. But when you're trying to play into a gun faction on this map, you definitely want to safe cap the middle objective and hold a lot of your stuff on the bottom half of the map, so you can stay out of the range of those guns and force your opponent to come forward to take the middle objective themselves.
Skaven and Friendly Fire. Name a more iconic duo. This is the downside of taking an elite unit like Sister Slaughter when you're allied with the Skaven. They just got absolutely nuked by those avalanche mortars, which are being chased down by Archaon. He's in the backfield trying to shut them down, but he's completely alone. If we get some Brad Ogres in here, maybe some Cold One Knights, you can actually punish him pretty heavily. Looks like, where is Malekith? Malekith could come over here and punch him as well, and he is, exactly, coming straight back here.
Ikit ran in there to try and dissuade Archaon, but Ikit does not want to be fighting Archaon, even though Archaon's pulling back right now.
He does get that missile strength, and if we give a melee attack order, they tend to focus fire whenever you are chasing, so it gets some good damage in. On the low ground, we do have a bit of fight coming in, but most of this is going to be the superior quality of the Elven Infantry. Actually, are these Chaos Warriors or Marauders? Oh, those are Chaos Warriors. They should outgrind the Elves pretty quickly, but the Death Runners showing really good work on the low ground. The Fleshhounds should come in and tear them apart, though, as they are not infantry size. They are large. They aren't susceptible to that. Back on the top, we do have the single entity grind. The Avalanche Mortars are shut down, but not before they accrued all over 750 value, baby. But the shooting is still strong. You know, the pink horrors are just absolutely devastating this Dark Elf front line. Just focusing on the Corsairs. Despite the Corsairs having some armor, pink horrors do have very, very high damage up and do quite well against them. Nice burning head, just roasting Planetful Terror Slashers. They have 20% fire resist.
But it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter one bit. Krozer King coming in to help with the flying fight, which I really like this adaptation. Having some flying chaff means Bellicor's going to be damaging them instead of Malekith, and actually helps this fight go a lot more in Malekith's favor, and the Flensing Rune coming down as well, and loads of damage trying to punish him. But Archaon, meanwhile, is in the back, surrounded by Cold One Knights, but I think he's going to win this fight.
He'll be okay. He's going to take some damage, though.
Yeah, these Cold One Knights definitely trading up pretty heavily into Archaon. But these catapults are still just an absolute menace, just firing in, but I worry it's too little too late. Like I said, Chaos does have dominance on the low ground, thanks just to the virtue of Fleshhounds. Fleshhounds are a really, really nasty unit for controlling this mobility game. So I really think it's on the Skaven gun line up here to just really pull this team out. But it's looking pretty rough, and that's a nice breath attack onto those Chaos Warriors.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Those pinks are those pinks. You're right. They're being even though they've been being shelled this whole time, they are still up and kicking. They're still firing volleys in.
Yeah.
They're impressively resilient. What's the value on that soul grinder like? It's used most of its ammo. It looks like. Let's see.
1,000.
Okay.
Not bad.
It's not bad.
Got a
Given
nice
that it's
single
still
empty blob here.
valuable
Cold Knights coming
melee.
in. Bellacor's actually in a lot of trouble here. This is a pretty good fight for the Dark Elves and Skaven. Got a
That's
nice
Ruin or
Soul Stealer coming in.
Let's
We got
Soul Stealer,
Narcissism
okay.
popped on Ikit Claw. Narcissism popped on Malekith, but the Cold Knights do really, really well in these kinds of fights. The anti-large AP values are
I
devastating.
think this plot is going to decide the game right here.
I disagree because the Chaos Warriors are walking past. The Dark Elf front line is beginning to crumble. The Chaos Forces do march onward. Globes are going to start
value
needing
is
to
looking-
run.
Okay. There's a small value lead for Skaven.
Yeah.
This is still anybody's game. Do you mind real quick mousing over the supplies per second? Let's see, because now that they both control their thing, yeah, it's 16.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a small thing.
It's like Arcan is in
Oh
trouble.
my
Flensing
God,
Ruin coming down.
Archaon.
As well as
Flensing
Malekith.
Ruin.
Malekith should be able to just chase and confirm this kill. And Be'lakor had to back out as well for his own safety. Let me
If
see why.
Archaon dies, the boss is definitely going to be a little bit on the back foot.
So they
Even
got Ruin
Be'lakor,
health.
like he just keeps getting netted. They
This
keep
Flensing
shooting.
Ruin,
They keep throwing
he's
things
out
at
of the
him.
damage. He's not taking more Flensing Ruin
He's out of
damage.
the
He got out
damage.
with 167
But
HP.
he's routing the wrong way.
Yeah, but he's not routing at all. He's still running. He's
Oh, he's
still
still
running.
running.
Yeah, he could be desummoned if he doesn't. If he avoids getting shot. Now he's routed. He's still got
No, he's
167
routing the
HP.
right way.
But
My
look, the Fleshhound's coming to bail him out. Archaon's gonna be able to get out and get desummoned, and that's devastating. Not being able to finish him off
Yep.
hurts a lot. He might be able to stick around and get some greedy, more burning heads, but still. That said, Skaven are still trading pretty heavily in value. They've got a ton more value than anybody else in the lobby at the moment. And Malekith is just destroying things piece by piece. Chaos Warriors, Manticore, Archaon. Malekith is just putting the team on his back. Already up to 3,000 value in 7 minutes.
Wow.
Absolute
This is maybe the best
destruction.
Malekith performance we've seen all game.
And-
He's been
yeah.
bullying out the enemy lords. He's bullying out their infantry. It's really impressive.
Fletch Mortars rallied with 8 models, and that's the problem with these guys. They have so few models, they're hard to actually kill them off entirely. Now, we have actually ignored the fight on the low ground for the most part, because I thought Fleshhounds would just be dominating the Skaven, but the Skaven have actually done a pretty good job holding on. Looks like a lot of Fleshhounds have actually been dedicated to the top objective to actually try to win that single entity fight, which means that the low ground has been held by the Skaven, which is they're not at far back behind in objective points as you would like to see as the Warriors of Chaos.
And it looks like we're seeing some Team RTK is really pocketing a lot of resources. I wonder if they're just supply capped right now, or if maybe they're just really tense and having a hard time finding their summons. What's going on?
I suspect a lot of it is in these weapon teams that have just keep routed and coming back with very low HP. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
that's
how
one of the
Hellstar is
reasons
so
you do
squishy.
want to bring a bit of cyclable chaff, and
Mhm.
just so you in 2v2s especially, just so you have some things to cycle in, so you're not hoarding resources.
Yeah,
You
and
can have a
this-
constant flow of units.
And it is very important to desummon things. Looks like we have a little bit of a miss micro down here. If Cassier has been forgotten on the low ground, that could be devastating. If it comes up here, kills this catapult, maybe gets in the avalanche mortars, something like that, it could absolutely turn the tide. But now the Skaven have taken objective number 3. Malekith is just terror routing off all these units like
Oh,
rattling guns.
Damage.
Oh,
That
yes.
damage. They're just pouring it in.
Give it to me. I love Skaven shooting so much. I am here for it. Come on. Come on. Don't do the Warhammer 3 thing. Don't walk forward. Don't walk into melee.
Oh,
Come on.
no.
I was so... Oh, are we going to fire? Soul Grinder, point blank. Yeah. Give me the DACA.
They're a very finicky unit, but when they work, they definitely work.
Do some really nice damage, tearing apart that Soul Grinder. Malekith is trying to pursue Be'lakor, but I think that's a mistake, yeah. There's too many things to support Be'lakor. Malekith just needs to make sure he stays out, stays alive, keeps casting those Soul Steals in the middle blob, and just try to heal up and get that persistent terror. Ghouls Baby is actually overtaking the Skaven value, but Faza is just falling behind. The Chaos Warriors are just getting dumpstered by the Skaven Globes. And honestly, the Skaven have been managing to trade well on the low ground as well. The Rat Ogres are doing a good job controlling the mobility game, and the Skaven do cap, and the objective point's pretty close. Walk has to hold 2 objectives for a very, very long time if they want to get back into this game. Sister Slaughter are finally getting onto the Pinks, trying to start shutting them down. Looks like the yes, the Xingqi and Conga line. I believe this enhances their magical abilities by about 30%.
Ah, yes.
I actually wonder, are the rear units out of range if they're firing at max range? Is that how it works? I don't actually know. Things to
think
test
so,
later.
actually.
Malekith's in
I
a lot of
believe
trouble
it
here.
is.
The Screamers and Be'lakor should be able to finish him off. He got a nice soul steal and come heal him up a bit, but this isn't a fight he wants to be taking unsupported, and losing Malekith here could hurt quite a bit. The Dark Elves.
Oh, and Be'lakor dropped the shield too. I think Be'lakor is going to kill him. And we
yeah.
have Screamers. Yep, I think maybe not kill him, but Malekith's definitely not. This is not the correct fight for him right now.
Yeah,
Those Screamers
Malekith.
are going to put a lot of hurt on him from behind.
Yeah, that's hurting a lot. And the pink Horrifire coming in. I think Malekith is done
Oh.
for.
Oh, 800. Oh, he's going to die. He's going to die.
He's routing off. The Screamer should be able to pursue him and make sure he doesn't come back with no flyers on the field for the side of the Dark Elves. Or they're just going to net him and end him.
Oh, they're going to net him and end it.
Mhm.
That's brutal.
Down
Oh,
goes
Stingers
Malekith.
must be so frustrated right now. Malekith did so much, and that is not the end he deserved here.
Yeah. But Skaven are still holding on to that low-ground objective somehow, but it looks like, yeah, with just some routing Corsairs, the Fleshhounds should be able to roll in. I think Warriors of Chaos are looking in a pretty dominant position. They're about to get a 3-cap. They killed off Malekith. Now, Archaon, I'm not sure what happened to him. I think he got back in desummons, so there's no actual Lord Lost penalty. There's just no front line for the Skaven and Dark Elves, but we've been here before. I wrote them out last game, I'll be honest, and they pulled it back. But I just don't see how they get back on these points.
Similar to last game, we're seeing a really big back and forth going on. We thought one team was dominant, then we thought the other team was dominant. The value's going one way, then the value's coming back. I really don't want to call it at all, honestly. There's just so much going on, and that Soul Grinder's still kicking. I wonder how much value it has. Let's see.
Look right there, it's at 1400. It still hasn't paid
14.
for itself.
Not yet. It has a little bit of ammo though. If it was able to back off and fire the rest of its shot, it would probably be pretty close.
It's not going to get that chance because it is being focused
No,
with
it
the
doesn't look like
Flinks
it.
of Ruin. Globes
They
are
get
still
rolling
firing in,
dirty on
and there's
them.
nothing really come and actually punish all these Skaven shootings. They are able to just absolutely destroy the front line of the Warriors of Chaos. This is the same thing we saw last time. Could we just see a repeat of the script of just the Skaven shooting, staying online so long, they able to value trade and just force Chaos off the map?
Yeah, and Ghouls Baby heard you, because look at those mid-game flyer summons coming in to maybe try to punish the backline and just take care of them. Because if we saw that one unit of Furies that was left on the lower ground, that was just kind of left alone for a while, and we saw them jump on the catapults and even take out one of the catapults, we might have a different story.
Yeah, but there are plenty of Wolf Rats here to actually protect them, and Wolf Rats do a very, very good job of eating Fart Furies.
They do.
Yeah.
Just
Warpro coming
volley
in.
after volley.
Oh!
See the
The thing is,
Warpgale.
they're hitting the Screamers, and the ones that miss are landing on the Pinks. That's
That
a
is
twofer if I've ever seen it.
Incredibly brutal.
There's no
That
way
is
they
incredibly
intended that,
brutal.
but that's beautiful. That's one of the things
my
I've always
God.
wanted to try pulling off, because, I mean, yeah, what goes up must come down, and look at that volley come down.
The beautiful thing about this is even if only 2 or 3 globes hit the Screamers, they're still putting them the DOT effect on them, and that's still going to do its full damage. So you're not nuking the Screamers by any means, but you're definitely trickling in quite a bit of damage from those globes.
The thing is, this low ground objective, nobody really wants to station units on here because they need them elsewhere. So it's just kind of back and forth of who kicks it. And now we might get the reverse 3-cap. And yeah, again, we saw it. The globe was just sitting back there. They had so much DPS, they were able to just force out all the Hellstriders, all the Fleshhounds, and just kill them off. And now there's no forces for Warriors of Chaos. There's a massive blob coming in. But Skaven love to punish an infantry blob, especially when they've got, what, 3 globes here and a catapult? 2 catapults? That infantry blob needs to split up and try to get on these points quickly. But, I don't know, the points are really close. And the 3-cap coming in, something you never expect to see when you're playing Skaven Dark Elves into Walk.
Yep, a reverse 3-cap is kind of brutal. This is the exact kind of thing I was talking about earlier when I said as a rush faction against the missile line on this map, you really want to try to play the bottom objective and try to safe cap the mid, maybe play the middle a little bit, because eventually up top, if you're just under that withering fire, you're just going to run out of steam eventually. And that objective 1 is a great place to take a fight for a melee faction. It's shielded really well from a lot of the ranged units. I might talk to Walk about putting something on objective 2 as well as shield from ranged units as well.
Hey Wicked, welcome to the stream.
How
Anyway,
you doing,
yeah,
Wicked?
we got a second wind of Chaos Warriors, but honestly, they're just chilling, which I kind of like. Just chill out of range, build up enough of a force to actually come and take this point back, and yeah, you've got a lot of infantry coming in. There's a whole second wave, but there's so many bodies on this point, so many globes. The globes are being taken out by the Flyers, by the Screamers, the Furies, but as long as one of them is alive, there's still a threat. The catapults are still firing in as well, but they do manage to get rid of the globes. That could be enough. They're retaking the center objective, but the bot objective is completely uncontested by both players, but currently taking control of the Dark Elves. So Warriors guys need to commit a Fleshhound over here to cap it, but it's got to be down there for, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and in that time they need to also be taking this objective. Got to get these objectives back, and they got to get them back quick.
Yep, and that Dark Elf infantry is definitely going to trade pretty well into the Warriors of Chaos infantry, especially with the support from the artillery fire.
I love this from Stingers. He pushes his units up to the very edge of the objective to make sure his opponent can't actually get the bodies on the point to apply capture weight, which buys more time for the Skaven reinforcements to come in, and these Sisters and whatever else they're able to summon in, and these Avalanche Mortars, baby!
They're
All right.
back.
They've got 1,600
They're
from the
back.
previous life. How much can they get this life? They've only got a few minutes to do so, so let's see what they can get. But I really need to see some kind of Chaos Warrior Halberd probably just come sit on this objective, and that puts the Skaven in a really awkward position if they were to get down
Team
there.
Chaos just takes the bottom objective, they'll have the double cap, and they won't even need to push on the top anymore.
Yeah, the problem is they just have no infantry in the area. It's going to take them the better part of 2 minutes to actually get down there and cap it, and by that point they'll have to 3-cap anyway. So they need something fast to go down there, or they're just out of luck. If they'd done it earlier, sure, but it's just too late.
I would have loved to see some skirmish cav play down there just to get on top of objective 1 and just grab it real quick. But see, the rats, they know this, and there's a rat ogre moving down there to try and keep the objective secure.
Yeah, the Skaven, the Dark Elves realize they only need to hold these objectives for a few moments more, and then they'll force them to a 3-cap and just have to be able to hold objective with number 3. We do see a large contingent of flying units coming in for the Forces of Walk, and I think that's a mistake. You just got to get bodies on this objective. Maybe it's the only thing they can summon, but if so, that's a rough situation to be in. We're starting to see mismicros all over the map. We got a lot of units just in tatters fighting on the fringes of the map. We do have a reinforcement supply coming down here, and I'm wondering if the Skaven are just saying, just sack the top, everything bottom. Just put whatever you can on this objective. There's nothing here to contest it. And just whatever's up here can hopefully fight long enough that you put your opponent in a 3-cap situation, which they're about to be in. They're a few moments away from being in a 3-cap situation.
Yep. Do you think, here's a question for you, do you think the Chaos players have summoned in too many flyers over the course of this game?
Yeah, the problem is even though there's not a lot to assault this position other than flyers, if you send them in alone, they're just going to get eaten by wolf rats or by dark riders, and they're just not going to accomplish anything. So it's a bit of a value sink, and like, it's a very, very easy pattern to fall into of summoning in those flyers, but it's just, they don't end up actually paying for themselves or shutting down what they're trying to shut down. So these Chaos Furies, you know, they just aren't getting enough value. And I believe we are in a 3-cap scenario, and there's nothing down here to threaten objective number 1. Once again, just, yeah, a little bit of a mismanagement on objectives from the red team.
And we saw him resummon Archaon. I wonder if that's because he got supply capped and Archaon was the only thing he could summon left, or if he really just wanted his lord back for the Burning Heads.
Yeah, it looks like the Burning Heads are the only answer to the Sisters of Slaughter, so I don't hate the choice, but just spread a little bit thin, and that, I don't see a way from the back on these objectives in time. There are some Fleshhounds and Hellstriders coming in, but they've got to get here, get to this fight, and win it, and capture it in not enough time.
In about 10 seconds. 5 seconds if even. Yeah.
2, 1. And that's another close victory for Team RTK. And that's going to be them taking our series 2-0, taking our finals and the tournament.
It was a 2-0, but they were both very close games.
Yeah,
it definitely could have gone any way. Just
the
minor efficiencies, some minor optimizations would change that completely. 4K value on Malekith, beautiful.
Yeah, the scoreline does not reflect how close the games were. That was a very well played series from both sides. Congratulations to Team RTK, and thank everyone who played for playing. Let's check out some of these values real quick. Old One Knights, Corsairs, Malekith does Malekith things. I want to see some of these globes. Those globes were firing. Swarv in both games is doing a really, really good job of keeping his globes online and letting them fire. Oh, look at those Death Runners.
Wow, 1,500 value.
Good unit.
They must have been dabbing Archaon or something.
I think they were just fighting for dominance on the low ground. But yeah, globes actually didn't even do a whole lot. It's a lot of the infantry.
It was mostly the catapults, I think, right?
Yeah, the catapults just firing uncontested the entire game. Archaon, that's a disappointingly low number. Only 2,600.
He only barely made cash. Only barely made profit. Lord of the End Times, not enough. He did get sniped very early. He didn't use all his WOM. It makes sense.
Yeah, Be'lakor as well got shut down pretty handily. But yeah. Very, very well played to our players. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations to Stingers and Swarv. You guys won. You guys did excellent. In Goals, Baby, and Fahasa, that came a long way. They were very impressive and fun to watch. They did awesome.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you everybody who played. Thank you all for watching, and thank you, Sandwich, for joining me. That's all we got for you today.